Wherever there's an episodic series, you can bet two men will talk to you. AJ Talon and Owen Finch give their thoughts on Owen and AJ Talks.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Owen and AJ Talks. I'm Owen Finch, and I'm here with
AJ Talon, and today we're here for one of my favorite episodes of Avatar. Really glad we're here, and it's cool because next episode is also really good. So we're in for a great 2 episodes, coming off of one of the worst episodes of Avatar. It's
this is
AirBender Book 1, Episode 11, The Storm.
Yeah, actually, it's episode 12, not 11.
Fuck me. But that actually raises a fantastic point. When we first started Avatar, fucking many moons ago now, I remember we were flipping through the episode list, and I was very surprised that The Storm was this late into the season. In my mind, The Storm was one of the early episodes. So I was like, oh wow, they waited more than halfway through the season to give us Aang and Zuko's backstory.
Yeah, and I think based on my memory too, I always thought The Storm was earlier. But I think that has to do with, when I was a kid, I never watched anything in order. And I think I just saw The Storm before, Jet. I definitely saw The Storm before Jet, and I always thought Jet was later than The Storm was, which is interesting.
Yeah.
So.
And I think it's also because the earlier episodes do a really good job at hinting at the events of this episode. So it doesn't feel it doesn't feel just plopped in there. It really does feel seamless. Like nothing really feels pulled out of their asses.
Yeah. But yeah, this isn't just like you said, AJ, one of the best episodes. It's probably, you can make an argument, one of the most important episodes of Avatar. It's probably top 3 most important episodes because we're going to get the backstory of, the main hero of the show and the main villain of season 1 and, one of the main characters of Avatar. So it's kind of cool that we got an episode like this. Type of thing.
Yeah, the Aang being the protagonist and Zuko being the antagonist / deuteragonist. Sorry,
I don't know. Deuteragonist is what?
Deuteragonist is the second protagonist. Because it's Aang is the main protagonist. Yeah. Zuko's is the second story we follow, which is pretty common in shows. You have Walt is the main protagonist, Breaking Bad, and Jesse is the deuteragonist. Death Note, Light, and L.
Yeah.
So it's obviously they're probably the 2 most important characters. Definitely the 2 that we follow the most heavily.
Better Call Saul, Jimmy and Mike, which is really funny considering the fact that everyone always asks for Mike to get a prequel, and then you fucking watch Better Call Saul, and they're
half of Better Call Saul is the Mike prequel. Yeah.
So, but anyhow, before we go through all of this stuff, obviously we got to do all the dates and all the information and everything like that. So AJ, I guess the date of the last Avatar episode, and I was off because I tried to go based off memory and misremembered when it came out. I was in 3rd grade. It's just it just came out later in 3rd grade than I thought.
Yeah. So again, I'm also gonna have to go off of memory here, where I was 4 when this came out, so this was 2005, I believe. The show is set in winter, but I think this came out in the summer, if I'm remembering correctly. I'm gonna say, you know what? With Dragon Ball, we were pretty much at the anniversary. I'm gonna say we're close to the anniversary of this episode. So I'm gonna say we're close to it. I'm gonna say this was May 5th, 2005.
Wow, AJ, you 1 month and 2 days off. Actually, a little over a month and 2 days off. It's June 3rd, 2005. So
it's actually not bad. That's pretty close.
Yeah,
considering I was pulling.
I don't think it's summer either, because I think the first day of summer is late June or whatever. So I don't even think this is technically summer. You're in the wrong season, AJ.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure it's in April, but okay.
It's definitely not April. So.
Oh no, spring. Yeah, my bad.
But Yeah, you were really close. And watch, I have to guess this tomorrow, and let's hope they didn't pull some BS and fucking air this like they air Blue Spirit like the same day or something like that
Yeah.
type of thing. But then I gotta say who wrote and directed this episode. This episode was written by Aaron Eaz. Yeah, I just looked it up while you were making your tea off camera, and he wrote like a lot of the big Avatar episodes. He wrote this one, like we said.
I've heard his name before. I'm pretty sure he's like the third main writer. Like I think Brian and Michael are like the two main writers, and then Aaron was like the third one. I know he's heavily involved in a lot of Zuko episodes, so not surprising that he was heavily involved in this one.
Yep. He's heavily involved in writing all like the season premieres of each of Avatar and everything like that. He wrote
which makes sense, you know. Like Owen, is that really surprising that one of the main writers is heavily involved in the important episodes? It shouldn't be surprising, but based on the shows we watch, it is.
I like to say shows, but it's just the one. It's just the one we've been watching, Yellow Jackets. So
yeah, pretty much.
But he's written other ones. He wrote part 1 of Winter Solstice, The Spirit World. He wrote Avatar. He wrote The Avatar Returns, which makes sense. He wrote part 2 of The Sage of the North. He wrote he wrote Bitterwork, which is pretty interesting. Makes sense because that's a big Zuko episode, though, like you said. He wrote the finale of season 2, and again, that makes sense. That's a Zuko episode. Not a Zuko episode per se. It's kind of a Zuko one, but like I said, the Awakening. He wrote the finale of season 3 and part 2 of Sozin's Calm with the Old Masters. I think that's I think that's the Zuko part of like the.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's the one where Zuko reunites with Iroh. So again, seems to be that he's like the main Zuko guy on the show.
He did some additional writing though. To the same episodes. He wrote some of the comics, I think. It says comic writer. Going Home Again and The Bridge. So, but he's also done some other TV work. He wrote he wrote some Futurama episodes. So, that's pretty cool. And then the director for this episode was Laura McMullen. And she written some not as important episodes of Avatar, but some other ones. She wrote Zuko Alone. She wrote City of Walls and Secrets, Lake Laogai, which is a pretty big episode. The Desert. She wrote part 1 of Sage of the North, The Cave of Two Lovers, The Deserter. She also wrote Winter Solstice part. I'm sorry, no, she directed, not wrote, directed these episodes. Kind of interesting too, kind of cool, that they've worked together and everything like that. She storyboarded some episodes too, Avatar Day, Zuko Alone also, the Desert, also The Deserter, Winter Solstice Part 1. Anyways, she was the historian of the Cave of Two Lovers. I guess that means she helped draw the pictures and everything like that. She was
story, because that a big part of that is the story of the two Earthbenders who form Omashu.
And she wrote the Tales of Baz and Say. She was the character designer for Avatar Day and Cities of Walls and Secrets. She did the background design of Avatar Day in the same episode after that. Other TV work, she's directed some episodes of Kin in the Hill, The Nanny, The Simpsons, and she storyboarded some episodes there. And JM Animation was like the production company that helped animate this episode. And they've animated some things. They animated a Pokemon movie. Where is it? I looked it up. It's like a TV movie. It's Pokemon, and it's the Me Too, but Strikes Back, which is really funny that's the name of a Pokemon movie. So, and
I like how you keep saying "Me Too," like the Me Too movement.
Well, that's what it said. So, and then I saw she did like a cowboy. They did like a Cowboy Bebop movie, and all that other type of stuff. I can't find it right now because of course we're on video and I'm not looking too hard now. But
well, I'm hoping it's the good Cowboy Bebop movie and not the shitty Netflix Cowboy Bebop.
I'm gonna say probably the good one because it seems like it seemed like it was in the 2000s. When and you know. So.
Yeah. Then we're good.
I guess we'll mention it now. An important guest star shows up for this Avatar episode. And I guess we talked about this off camera. It's really weird. Iroh is like a guest star. Considered a guest star.
Yeah, I was gonna. Is that like in the credits or something? Because like when you said he's the guest star, I'm like, what do you mean?
According to the wiki, he says guest stars, and Iroh. It says uncle is a guest star, but I'm not. I don't consider. I guess maybe season 1. I guess you consider him a guest star, but you know, but.
I don't want a guest star. I feel like that implies like he's only like him being there is like a rare thing, and I'm like, no, he shows up pretty often. Like he's not like a main character in book 1, but he's like
yeah, he's there.
You know, he's supporting cast.
Maybe they took the Yellow Jackets method and you know remember they upgraded Callie to like you know like a main cast member, and she was like barely in season 3 and was in season 2.
Yeah, main cast in season 2. Yeah, but interest.
But an important you know guest star shows up for the first time. Kind of fitted because we've been doing a lot of Star Wars stuff lately, and then I just watched Empire Strikes Back, and a big thing is you know someone getting a face reveal in that movie.
The Jedi, you meant.
What did I say?
You said Empire Strikes Back, which I mean also isn't wrong, but you know.
Yeah, but yes, it's Mark Hamill. He makes his first voice acted appearance doing Fire Lord Ozai. Obviously, this is pretty interesting considering the fact that, like, you know, in Star Wars, he's obviously like the noble one and the hero as Luke Skywalker in that movie. So it's really interesting to see like the big turnaround that he's basically like the main villain. Well, not basically, he is the main villain of the entire Avatar like series and everything like that.
Yeah, and I mean not even just like going from hero to villain, just how you know the stark contrast of like you know Luke. His whole thing is that he you know he has the Dark Father who ends up fucking cutting his hand off. And then he gets zapped with electricity by like the evil emperor. And then here, he's the Dark Father who horribly scars his son and also shoots lightning out of his hands. Yeah. I'm like, wow.
Hey, you know what? The emperor did say he would go to the dark side, and he was fucking right. He just had to wait a few years.
Dark side. So dark, in fact, that he's in shadow for like 2.5 seasons.
So the emperor got what he wanted finally. It's just
the emperor like is shedding a tear. Like, I'm so proud of him.
How do you think Darth Vader feels about this? Because he's probably as you saw from the last movie, I don't think he's like I
think he's not happy about it. He's like, all right, you know what? You know, a lot of fathers want their son to take after them. Maybe not like this.
It's what you're thinking too. I died for this. So.
But it is funny because as a kid, you know, of course, I loved Avatar and Star Wars. But I never put 2 and 2 together. I mean, obviously, a big part of it is like in, you know, when Mark Hamill did Star Wars, he was like in his 20s. And then, you know, here he's like late 40s, early 50s. By the way, Owen, isn't that crazy that like the time between like Return of the Jedi, which was like 1981, and this is like 24 years. And here we are, 2005 to 2026. It's been 21 years.
Yeah, it's insane.
Like, you know, the time difference between Return of the Jedi and Avatar now is a pretty comparable.
Yeah, it's insane.
Which is like, oh fuck, we're getting old.
Well, I'm not thinking that, but whatever. So, and I'm the one that's actually, I'm the one that's gonna have a pretty milestone birthday. That I don't think of that shit. So,
yeah, but I guess we should get into the actual episode itself.
I do want to mention, because you mentioned memories. I kind of want to talk about because I remember seeing the trailers for this episode as a kid, and I remember really liking the trailer because I don't know if you remember the trailer doesn't like give anything really away. You get kind of like I remember you got kind of like you know a sense of what happened, but you didn't really get like you know they kind of didn't really give you everything like all in the trailer type of thing. They kind of like just spliced it in and everything like that, which I thought was pretty cool. You definitely got the sense it was a backstory, but I remember like I remember the main you don't even really get I remember in the trailer you didn't really get like Aang's plot like in the trailer. You got it was about Sokka going to take this job and you think that that's what the episode's going to be about, but then you know and then you see like all of a sudden like Zuko and I hate to say it because I was young back then. I didn't know Zuko I thought Zuko was like was Sokka in that situation because I didn't I didn't know they were gonna do a Zuko backstory back then, and I was so used to seeing Zuko with his black eye. I thought the episode was gonna be about what Sokka was doing, doing his job and everything like that. But we got such a better episode, so kind of interesting how much the trailer left out and everything like that type of thing, which is cool.
Yeah.
So
yeah. And also, not really from the episode trailer, but I do remember, I think it was on Nick.com, and you probably found it on YouTube. They were doing a Q&A for some of the people who worked on Avatar. And it was either Michael or Brian, one of the two main creators of Avatar, I forget which one. They got asked, what are your, top 3 favorite episodes from the show? And I'm pretty sure, and one of them said, I think it was, number 2 or number 3, but they said, The Storm is in their top 3 because, it's the main backstory for 2 of the most important characters of the show.
Yep.
And it's funny that you mentioned that in the trailer you didn't really know it was going to be a backstory episode because this episode starts off in the present day, of course. And it's funny because the present is obviously not what everyone loves about this episode. The present itself is a pretty simple story. Yeah. And as we're going to talk about, Zuko's section of the present is very quick. Only a few scenes in the present for Zuko. And Sokka, as you mentioned, you thought this episode was going to be about him taking on his job. Sokka barely gets any screen time this episode. But I think that's good. I think, if you know the present isn't going to be able to compete with the past, just don't even try, the present episode basically serves to give the characters an excuse to talk about the past, which I think is fine.
RVB Season 9 should have taken notes from this.
I was thinking of. I'm okay, we could have just done without the present in that season. Just make it all past. Or if you're going to do past and present, do a better present.
I would make an argument even Yellow Jackets Season 3's present probably should have... Because...
yeah, honestly.
So... Then again... Well, maybe more...
And again, keep in mind, the present isn't bad. I'm just saying, I'm glad that, the present in this does not overshadow the past. If the present exists to kind of give us a little setup, and then it goes the fuck away. And I think that's perfect,
Yeah.
The present... starts off with it's very clearly a dream. The music is kind of whimsical, and you can tell obviously Aang's flying on Appa, and then you see Sokka flying on Aang's glider, and then Katara is riding on a giant Momo. So very clearly a dream.
No, this is totally real. Totally real.
Yeah. But
what made me think it was a dream was the fact that, Sokka was talking, he never talks.
Yeah. Sokka never talks at all. Never. But they're Sokka and Katara telling Aang that they need him. And he says, I need you guys too. But then in the distance, he sees storm clouds. And, he's telling everyone to be careful. But then all of a sudden they're gone. And then Aang is overtaken by the storm. And, we see, Aang crashing into the water and forming the iceberg. Then he gets trapped in for the 100 years. And then he just kind of jolts awake in the middle of the night. And, Katara and Sokka get woken up by Aang. And I like Sokka's response here, where he's just what happened? Did we get captured again?
Oh, you did miss a big thing from the dream, because this ties in. You also saw Kyatso. And said, why did he asked him why he disappeared, and then Aang says I didn't mean to, and then after he gets overtaken before he got overtaken by the storm, Kyatso faded away type of thing.
Yeah, and I like that. This kind of ties into the Guru episode. If you remember, Aang's having a vision of all the air nomads in the sky, and then they kind of just get puffed away one by one into smoke.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of like that, where Aang is seeing Sokka and Katara with him, his new family, and then he's reminded of his old family, Gyatso, who gets blown away, and this episode is all about his guilt and leaving the air nomads. So I like that, Aang kind of, he gets over his nightmares in this episode, but it's not something he just is done with after this episode. It's still something that lingers with him.
Right.
And like we get more, it's followed up more on future episodes. And like I said, the guru addresses that, like, Aang's feelings about his old family. That love isn't gone. It's become new love for his new family and like Katara specifically.
Yeah.
And speaking of, when they get woken up, Katara tries to like ask Aang what's up, and like I guess he's been having a lot of nightmares recently. But Aang kind of just dodges the question, ignores it, and like goes back to sleep. And then the next morning, by the way, I like a little side thing, but Aang must be so fucking uncomfortable because like they're on a beach, and Katara and Sokka have sleeping bags, but Aang is just like sleeping on the sand. I'd be like, bro, I'd have sand in my ass crack. I'd be like, I would not. Sand is not comfortable. Like I don't know how people can just lie on the sand. I'd be fucking so uncomfortable.
I guess he just finds a way.
I'd say that's why Aang's having nightmares. He's got too much fucking sand up his air hole.
Maybe that's why this nightmare is probably worse than the other. Maybe it's just the worst nightmare. Maybe when he's sleeping peacefully, he doesn't have this nightmare type of thing. So.
And listen, as we're gonna find out in the future seasons, Aang and sand do not mix.
Yeah, true.
So yeah, it's a couple hours later. It's morning now. They're kind of setting up their camp, and they're like, all right, we got to go into town and get some food. But it's a little side thing. I even though I was joking about it, I like that they're on a beach because every time we see them like making camp, it's in like a forest.
Yeah.
So I'm like, you know what? That's nice, mixing it up a little bit. And they're going into town, and Sokka is kind of just joking. Well, he's not joking, but he's like, wait, guys, my nightmare last night. We shouldn't go into town, like, because in my dream, food eats people. And they kind of just like ignore him, and they go into town anyway.
Another funny thing is he mentioned Momo can talk, which is kind of funny because in daydreams and nightmares, I'm pretty sure Momo talks in like that one too. So.
Yeah, you're right.
Apparently, in people's dreams, Momo's a huge asshole too. I guess so.
Yeah. Which is funny because remember the original idea was that Momo was like Gyatso reincarnated.
Yeah, true. So.
Yeah, they get to town, and by the way, Aang mentioned on the beach, like, oh, look at that sky, it's gonna be smooth sailing.
Mm-hmm.
It was not, in fact, smooth sailing. So they're kind of just at a food stand, and they're trying to get the food, but then they realize like, oh, we're out of money anyway, so we can't even like buy anything. And Katara kind of just jokes at Sokka like, hey, why don't you go get a job? And then this is where Sokka retired. He's like, all right, guys, I'm done with Team Avatar. I'm getting a 9 to 5. I'm settling down, having a couple kids. Just gonna live in this small Earth Kingdom village in the middle of fucking nowhere.
I gotta say too, by the way, like I remember in the Avatar meeting Kyacho for the first time when Aang goes to talk to him, that two-parter. At the Blue Spirit episode, like that Earth Kingdom said, like, oh, they were gonna give him money and supplies to prepare him from the trip. They seemed like they didn't give him they gave him like jack shit because like I feel like wasn't it like the next episode they had like no money or whatever? Like, did they give him?
Like, man, well, again, those guys like gave up Aang to Zuko like instantly. So again, I think those guys were just fucking assholes, And remember, they let Sokka go out there. They're like, Sokka, you can get kidnapped by the spirit, but Katara, no, you can't.
Yep.
So yeah, those guys were just dicks.
Yeah, apparently.
They for money they probably gave like what was it that Mr. Krabs sold SpongeBob sold for, like 67 cents?
62 cents actually.
Yeah. They gave Aang 61 cents.
That's nice.
And a piece of gum and a paperclip.
It's something that looks like an olive, but the olive's moving.
Yeah,
so it's not. So it's like a bug.
No, they gave that pack of smokes, and they're like, "Why?" And they're like, "Trust me, that guy needs to stop lighting shit on fire."
Oh yeah, it's the same guy that's setting all this shit on fire. Yeah.
Okay, I should stop smoking now. Here you go.
Yeah.
It's like okay. Yeah. So conveniently, they hear an old married couple, bickering. And basically, like, the woman believes that there's a storm coming and that she doesn't want to go on this fishing trip. But the old man, calls her a stupid bitch. Wow, I'm amazed he got away with that on a kid's show. But, he's like, nah, the skies are clear. I'm going. And you know what? I'll pay somebody double to take your spot. And Sokka volunteers. And he's like, what? The guy's paying double? You know, we get to use the money. And I like how the guy's like, double? Who told you I'm paying double? I like how this character is just like, he's an asshole.
Right. You don't even know, by the way, they don't tell you till later. I mean, you get the vibe, but like they don't even mention that the husband and wife. I like that he's just treating his wife like this way, type of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not till later she mentions like it's my husband. You just get the vibe that she's like works for him.
Mm-hmm. But I like this. You know, you'll talk about this more, but like you could definitely tell that like, I definitely caught this like on a rewatch type of thing. You don't really catch this on first viewing, but like when the Aang hears a storm mentioned, like the camera zooms in on him and like the music, like the Avatar music plays, so you could tell like Aang has some type of like conflict and like a little bit of PTSD from like storms type of thing. Like he's even telling Sokka later on like not to go out there and everything like that. So I do kind of like that they set up the fact that like Aang doesn't seem.
It also makes sense because we've been told before that like Aang got caught in a storm and that's how he ended up in the iceberg. And then obviously this episode we're gonna get the full context for that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and this isn't too convoluted. Like we've seen in previous episodes, like you said, they're usually pretty broke and kind of just scrounging for food. So it makes sense that Sokka's like, yeah, I'll take a quick job to make us some money so we can buy some food and then continue on to the North Pole.
Yeah.
So yeah, Sokka's getting ready to go on this trip. And, the old lady's like, Aang is like, Sokka, you shouldn't go. Like, there are storm clouds approaching. Like, it's not a good idea. And the old woman is like telling her husband, like, yeah, you should listen to the boy with tattoos. He's talking some sense. And the old man makes him think for a second, like, oh, wait a minute, boy with tattoos. Those are AirBender tattoos. Are you the Avatar? And if Aang and Katara are kind of proud of it, like, yep, we are.
Mm-hmm.
And the old guy is like, well, how about you go fuck yourself then? Because the Avatar abandoned everybody for 100 years. And Katara immediately stands up for Aang, which I like. She's like, hey, it's not his fault that he disappeared. And the old man is like, oh, yeah, I must have just like imagined the last 100 years of like pain and destruction. And you see Aang kind of like, feeling really guilty about it. And this causes him to fly away in his glider. And, I like how the old man is still just like talking shit, like, yeah, I'll fly away. I'm going to run away, little piss boy.
I like that, yeah.
Going to disappear for another 200 years. Why not? And Katara just like, is like, you're crazy, old man. And just like, she flies away on Appa.
Yeah, I like, I did like all this. I like that, like, they went out of the way to, like, animate, like, actual storm clouds, because usually animators wouldn't have gone out of the way. They would have just mentioned, oh, look at these clouds approaching, and then there'd be, like, nothing sometimes. So I do like that they went out of the way to, like, animate storm clouds. I do like that we got someone's perspective. Yes, this guy's an asshole, but honestly, it's kind of nice to hear, like, someone's actually upset that the Avatar disappeared, because...
Yeah, I was going to... we're going to get more episodes about it, but this is, like, the first time we're seeing somebody who's not, like, Fire Nation be like against the Avatar, and it makes sense. He brings up a good point that like for 100 years people were hoping and praying for the Avatar to show up, and he never did. So it makes sense a lot of people would like resent him for like because they don't know the context. They don't know why he disappeared, so they're just like, oh, you fucked off for 100 years. Like, great job, buddy.
Yeah. So I like all this, and I like that Aang. You got the vibe that Aang was feeling guilty about something, so I kind of liked that he kind of flew off and everything like that. And then, this guy ends up being a huge, even though this guy ends up being a huge asshole, I do think he kind of did make some good points and everything like that. And I feel like too, he ends up becoming like, obviously he's still kind of an ass at the end, but he's like less of an ass by like the end of the episode. Like he ends up being a pretty solid dude and everything like that. So like he redeems himself later on. That's pretty much Team Avatar's plot, like in the present up until we get Aang's backstory. Overall,
yeah, like I was very simple, but like it serves its job. It serves to like set up, Aang kind of sitting down with Katara and like talking about like what happened before he got caught in the storm and was in the iceberg.
Yeah.
it feels natural. Like we said, it makes sense that like there are people out there who like resent the Avatar for disappearing. So like this old guy, like it makes sense why he like exists.
Yeah.
And it also makes sense that Aang's been having nightmares because Aang has shown like guilt before this episode about like disappearing, and like he feels bad that like he's the last Airbender. So like again, this all like it's not out of nowhere. It's not pulling it out of its ass. Like this was built up to, which I appreciate.
But going through my stuff, because I figured we splice it up, mix it up a little bit, so that way not one person has to talk the whole time. We'll go on to kind of what Zuko was doing in the present. And this is obviously kind of taking place, around the same time as Team Avatar's plot. And I will also senses a storm's approaching. And obviously Zuko's confused about this, considering the fact that, there's not a cloud in the sky. It's like clear sunshine and everything like that. I guess I was a weatherman, because obviously the big thing about the weatherman is they'll report on the weather and then they end up getting it wrong. So I guess I was the reverse of that, where but Zuko was treating him like the weatherman on television. And I was kind of telling Zuko like he recommends like changing course because he should consider the safety of the crew and everything like that. And one of the crew members walks up, which we find out is the lieutenant, and Zuko he overhears Zuko like saying that like he doesn't really care about the safety of the crew. All he cares about is getting the Avatar. And obviously the lieutenant kind of gives Zuko like a look, like kind of be like, who the fuck you think you are, dude? Like, we've been busting our ass for you. And Zuko says, even goes up to him right in his face and even says, the safety of the crew is like none of my concern. We have a job to do. And then he kind of storms off. And Ivo even tells like the lieutenant, like, he doesn't mean that. And then, then we cuts later. By the way, I already added him. The lieutenant we can add to characters not named. I don't think we got his name, so.
Yeah, I think he does technically have a name, but like they just never say it in the episode.
I'm putting it in there. It's already in there.
Yeah. Fair enough.
And then later on,
I will say, so I just want to point out, because I was kind of praising this episode for having a lot of build up to it, like Aang and Zuko's pasts were built up to quite well. Doesn't feel pulled out of their asses. Lieutenant is kind of pulled out of the ass because he never showed up before and he never shows up after.
Yeah, it would have been.
Got this one episode.
Yeah. And
it sucks because I like,
Yeah, I thought he was solid. So then it's later on, and the lieutenant. We see the storm clouds start forming, and the lieutenant was just like, "Look at this! Your uncle was right about the storm. He should have listened to him." And obviously, this offends Zuko, so he's like, he's even like, "We're still not going to change course. We're going to keep going until the mission is accomplished." And he's upset that the lieutenant's talking down to him, so he even tells him to learn respect. And the lieutenant speaks up for himself and says, "You're the one that's telling people about respect. Listen to the way you talk to everyone, especially your uncle, who always puts up with your crap." And then, I do like this. Zuko was obviously, I think, just gonna walk away, but the second that the lieutenant even says like, "You're just a spoiled prince," it seems like that's what got into Zuko, because obviously like when we find out Zuko's past, he's the opposite of a spoiled prince and everything like that.
Yeah. And I was going to say, I like that this is basically the reverse of what happens later, like where, Ozai was the one telling Zuko he needs to learn respect. And what Zuko was doing was he was speaking up to, like, for the safety of his fellow Fire Nation citizens. Where, here, Zuko's the one putting everyone in danger and, like, talking about respect. And the lieutenant is in Zuko's shoes, where he's, like, standing up for everybody and, like, worried about everyone's safety.
Yeah. And, they're about to get into a fight, but Ivo kind of keeps the peace and even says, like, "Look, we're all like clearly just tired for being out at sea for so long. Why don't we all just go like have lunch and everything like that?" And the lieutenant walks away, and Zuko's even still offended, like, "I don't need you keeping orders on my ship." And Ivo tries to like put his arm like on Zuko's shoulder, but he like kind of brushes it off and everything like that. Kind of like this, Ivo is just trying to keep the peace with everybody. And he's like, and I kind of like that, we're starting to see, like, how the crew kind of feels about, kind of dealing with Zuko's stuff and everything like that. You're just seeing Zuko, especially just so obsessed with keeping getting the Avatar that he doesn't care about, like, the crew's safety and all that type of stuff.
Like Iroh mentioned, like, they've been at sea for so long, and the lieutenant's going to mention later that, like, he's sick of all this. He's sick of chasing the Avatar and sick of dealing with Zuko. Because remember, it's been like 2.5 years of them, traveling around the world with Zuko. So it makes sense why kind of burnt out with all this. Burnt out. Funny Fire Nation.
So then later in the night, the lieutenant, obviously is just kind of venting to the rest of the crew members. Well, not the rest, but like a couple of them. And he's, like you said, like he's sick and tired of dealing with Zuko and his orders and dealing with this Avatar. And he like wonders, like, he's like even asked, like, who does Zuko think he is? And obviously Iroh overheard this. And Iroh says, like, do you really want to know? And I do like this because obviously I think the main reason Iroh told this story, obviously because Zuko he kind of wanted to get the crew's perspective about why they're doing this. And the crew obviously is uprooting their whole lives and everything like that to do this mission with Zuko, and Zuko hasn't given him any context behind it. And, obviously maybe if Iroh could kind of give them this perspective, the crew maybe will be a little bit more understanding towards Zuko and everything like that. So he's kind of...
Yeah. I like that Iroh is a really good mediator. Like, he's not upset that these guys are shit-talking his nephew, because, like, the lieutenant immediately, like, stands up and he's like, "Oh, General Iroh," and Iroh's like, "It's okay, it's okay. Can I join you?"
Yeah. I will say,
and sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead. You can finish.
I was gonna say, like, it makes sense because we found out before that, like, Iroh is like a very well respected, like, Fire Nation general. And, like, even the lieutenant was, like, standing up for Iroh earlier when he was like, the way you talk to your crew and talk to your esteemed uncle, so, like, it makes sense that, like, a lot of these guys, even though they have issues with Zuko, they have a lot of respect for Iroh. So, Iroh kind of being the one to kind of play mediator and, like you said, kind of give the crew a perspective on why Zuko is the way he is. It makes sense. And it makes sense why this crew, like... are like willing to sit down and listen to Iroh because they respect him so much. I will say,
because one thing I do like is they didn't just decide, they gave a reason to give this backstory for both Aang and Zuko. Mm-hmm. Like, everyone was starting to have issues with Zuko on the ship. I think Iroh could see, like, if he doesn't tell, if he tells this behind, like, Zuko's backstory, it can make some peace happen on the ship. Aang's starting to have nightmares, and then the old guy talked down to him, and he was feeling insecure about it. So, like, Katara wants to kind of know, like, why he's feeling this way. I like that they kind of naturally told these backstories. They didn't just decide, like, hey, we're going to finally tell these backstories now. There's, like, a storyline.
Yeah. Down and stare at the camera, like, okay, here's our backstories. Because to make a comparison again, Red versus Blue, I think we kind of, like, it wasn't even very clear that, like, the reason we're seeing the past is because Epsilon is, like, remembering it. Like, they weren't even super clear about that.
And then, then it was also weird because, like you said, Epsilon's remembering it, but, like, there was scenes that he wasn't in that we saw the past.
Like, wasn't there for, like, 90% of the shit that he's, like, that we're seeing.
I don't think any of Season 9, actually, so...
Yeah, literally. Like, none of that he was present for.
So, I like here that we actually get, like, and, like, Iroh was there for, like, all the scenes that he's telling the backstory of. Like, there wasn't...
And same for Aang. Like, it's all told from his POV, except, like, the very last scene with Gyatso, which I think is kind of to, like, show how tragic that situation was, and if Aang stuck around a little bit while longer, like, he would have found out how Gyatso felt.
Yeah. But, yeah, so, going through Zuko's backstory, like I said, this is 2.5 years earlier. Kind of cool. You get to see what Zuko was like as a teenager before all this happened, because you get it at a... Huh?
Well, he's still a teenager, but I know what you mean.
Yeah. And you got to see a little bit of it, but it's him as a kid, so you don't really get, like, his grown-up thoughts and everything like that. So I like that you get to see what Zuko was kind of like before all this stuff happened. And he's trying to go into this room, but the guards block him. And he's upset that the guards aren't letting him through. He's kind of trying to use, like, the fact that he's like the Fire Nation's, the Fire Lord's son. I almost said the Fire Nation's son. That'd be fucking weird. That'd be like, oh, that's a fucking, the whole nation's.
Everybody's son, everybody. I don't even know how that would work.
It's easy. All the Fire Nation just have sex with one woman, and ends up being Zuko.
One big fucking Fire Nation orgy. Jesus.
But anyhow, and then but he's trying to use the Fire Lord's son code, which is kind of interesting, because that's what upset him in the present. Iowa comes over and asks like Zuko, like, hey, what's wrong? And Zuko's upset because they won't let him go into the war chamber. Because he wants to go sit in and listen in on the meetings, because he feels like, if he's going to be the Fire Lord's son, and he's potentially could be the Fire Lord himself, which is kind of, interesting foreshadowing, because he ends up becoming the Fire Lord.
This is our kind of, because we've been told, like, we know he's the Fire Lord's son, but this is our first time knowing that, like, he's the next in line, or he was the next in line before being banished.
Yeah. And I was even trying to tell Zuko, like, hey, like, these meetings are, like, very boring and everything like that. You don't want to be a part of this. And Zuko's even just kind of like, yeah, but shouldn't I be a part of this if I'm going to be the next in line for the Fire Lord? So he agrees, but I will kind of want him, like, just don't speak out of turn, because just sit quiet and be silent. I know you talk about it in your storyline, but what I do like about this is Aang and Zuko's past is very different. Zuko actually wants to be, like, involved in the grown-up stuff. And he wants to, like, learn how to be the Fire Lord and everything like that. Now, Joe talk about, when Aang finds out he's the Avatar, like, things start to, like, change for him and everything like that. So I do kind of like... I like that we're getting these paths, but their paths are very different. It's like it's legitimately like a contrast and everything like that type of thing.
Yeah, but they are also similar in a lot of ways. Like, as we're going to talk about, they are both heavily involved with their father figures. Aang and Gyatso, and Zuko and Ozai.
Yep. So we see the war chamber. I gotta say, I like the setting for the war chamber. It's a bunch of, like, generals and everyone like that, like, planning obviously how they're gonna do, like, the invasion on the Earth Kingdom. You can see the Fire Lord. You forgot to mention it earlier in the Nightmare, not our first viewing of the Fire Lord, because I don't know if you got, like, a little glimpse of him at, like, the end of, like, Aang's Nightmare, which like, there's a tiny...
Yeah. We saw him, like, a little bit at the Winter Solstice thing. Yeah. But, like, this is our first time, like, actually seeing him, like actually him,
He wasn't just some random fucking dude, like a TV would pay.
Point that out. I'm like, they do a really good job this episode of hyping him up. This is like, because we just saw, like, a silhouette of him earlier. Yeah, earlier at the end of Aang's dream and at the Winter Solstice. But
do you think
here? Do
you think M. Night Shyamalan missed this episode and, like, how to not, when he had to reveal the Fire Lord, he decided not to watch. He skipped this episode and, like, saw an episode.
Yeah, he just didn't. He probably watched the show while going in and out of a coma. Because this whole episode, Ozai, even though we're seeing him, they do the director thing where we don't actually get a good look at his face. In the meeting, everyone is at a table, and then he's, like, in the background with, like, flames.
Yeah.
In front of him, and in the Agni Kai duel a little bit, he's, like, completely shadowed, and, like, you just see, like, he looks big and imposing because you're seeing him from Zuko's POV, so he just looks giant and, like, towering over you. And then in the last AirBender movie, he's like a fucking McDonald's manager. Like, he looks like I want fries with my order.
But yeah, in the plan of this meeting, the plan to invade an Earth Kingdom, like, colony, and everything like that. And the general comes up with the idea that they're going to basically send in, like, mercenaries in to be, like, the sacrificial lamb for, like, the real guys. I did kind of think it's funny because we just watched, like, season 10 of LVB, and this was basically, like, South's plan with what she was going to do with the Reds and the Blues. And that's actually what causes Wash to finally... Huh?
Yeah, just send him in to die, yeah.
And that's what caused Wash to, like, finally speak out. And here... Zuko actually speaks.
I didn't even think of that.
Yeah. Here, Zuko actually speaks out and says, like, you know, those men have served our nation, and like have committed themselves to this war. You can't just throw them in there and sacrifice themselves. And I like this where like Zuko immediately realized like, oh shit, I fucked up. I shouldn't have spoken. But like, you know, obviously he thought a lot of respect, and you could just tell he like even looks over his shoulder like at his dad, and you could just tell like he fucked up. And back in the present, Iroh even like mentions that Zuko was right to speak out, but like it just wasn't his place to say anything. He should have just sat down and listened. And by doing this, I don't think he says it in this scene. There was like another scene with like Aang, and then like he says it. But by doing this, you know, the general saw this as disrespect, and you know, because of this, Zuko was gonna have to pay the consequences. So that meant it was gonna be an Agni Kai. And obviously, the way they hyped this up is obviously Zuko was thinking that he was gonna be, you know, facing the general in an Agni Kai. But unfortunately, when Zuko turned around, it wasn't the general he was facing. It was unfortunately his father. And I like this.
Yeah, because even though it was Zuko standing up against the general's plans, he disrespected the Fire Lord by doing it in his war meeting.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so he disrespected the Fire Lord and not the general.
But
to find out more about Ozai as the show goes on, I think he was just looking for an excuse to fucking beat the shit out of his son.
It would have been funny if like it wasn't it was the Fire Lord and the general he had to face. Like it was 2-on-1 like Agni Kai.
No, he had to fight like the entire war room. Again, it's like those videos I've been sending you of just like one guy getting the shit beat out of him by like 10 different people.
Yeah. But yeah, you know, I like this, you know, when I was hyping this up when he's telling the story, you know, when Zuko turns around, to really get over like the shock that Zuko's feeling, like you see like everything just kind of slows down. Like he had like this cape he was wearing, and the cape like slowly like falls to the floor, just showing like everything in Zuko's world like stopped and like went slowed down when he found out it was.
And I like, you know, Iroh's like talking about how when Zuko was told he was gonna do the Agni Kai, he said he wasn't afraid, and like you see that like even though he's like 13 here. When his face at first was like confident, calm, collected, and then yeah, as like the cape is falling, you see his face like change as he realizes he's fighting his dad.
Yeah. And by the way, I should bet this wasn't just private Agni Kai like we saw with Zhao and Zuko. You know, in the second and well, I guess the third episode, it was it was in front of an audience.
Yeah, which is like extra humiliating for Zuko.
And, you know, doing this, Zuko, you know, obviously is pleading for mercy, you know, because he doesn't want to have to face his dad. And obviously he's really upset because, you know, he obviously, as you get to see, like, when he was younger and everything like that, he's been obviously wanting to live up to his dad's potential and everything like that. And the fact that, like, he disrespected his father, he obviously doesn't want to fight him. So he's kind of just trying to, like, basically like plead for mercy and everything like that, and his father just won't give him mercy. I'll be like the Fire Lord, and like his voice actor's like, you will stand up and fight, and you will you know, show honor and fight me and everything like that. And I like this because this part of the story is clearly in Iroh's POV, because obviously the Agni Kai happens and Iroh says like I looked away, and obviously this is interesting. So Zhao was here for this, but this is the first we get to see our first viewing of Azula, Zuko's sister. Obviously we haven't heard about her yet, so it's just a random background character and everything like that, but
kind of tell she's a little more important because like you see some other background characters and you know like they're not like super detailed. Like Zhao and her are like the only ones besides Iroh that are like given a lot of detail, and like they are smiling watching Zuko like get burned, so you can kind of tell like, okay, this girl's like, what's up with her?
Yep. And, yeah, off screen, obviously, we find out how Zuko got his skull, and that's, obviously in this Agni Kai, you know, Zhao obviously burns, not Zhao, the Fire Lord burns Zuko's face. And I like this. This didn't feel forced, because if you remember, this was brought up, you know, in, the Avatar Returns, when, Zuko and Iroh brought this up. You know, when, I will remind Zuko the last time he was in an Agni Kai, and Zuko obviously like had this voice was like, I will never forget, obviously, because he was really
like his scar, so like heavily implying like that's why Zuko has a scar, is he lost at Agni Kai duel. But yeah, this was our first time seeing that like it was from his father who did it, and that like it wasn't even like a duel, like like Zuko didn't know he was fighting his father and immediately like refused to fight, and fucking burned him anyway. And Ozai was cruel about it. Like you see Zuko like looking up, crying, and you just hear Ozai say like, "You will learn respect, and suffering will be your teacher." And like you said, I love what Iroh says here, where he's like, you see him like heartbroken, and then he turns away, and then you just hear like the screams, and you could see like the screen like turn orange from like the fire.
Yeah. And then obviously after hearing about this, the lieutenant and the crew members are shocked, and the lieutenant's like, "Wow!" Like he's kind of speechless, and like I always thought that Zuko, lost it in a training accident, and Iroh says it was no accident, and Iroh says like as punishment for because obviously the Fire Nation, the Fire Lord, saw this as unhonorable for the fact that Zuko refused to fight his father, and it made his father and his family look bad. Zuko was sent out to find the Avatar, and obviously the Fire Lord was thinking this was going to be like, and he was basically going to send him on a wild goose chase, because like you said, this was 2.5 years earlier. No one had even heard about the Avatar for like years, so Zuko was basically sent to go out to like on a unsuccessful quest and everything like that.
Basically Ozai thought Zuko was gonna get sent out and like never be heard from again. Like he didn't actually think Zuko was gonna find the Avatar.
I remember you said that this YouTube video, like it'd be funny to see like what Fire Lord Ozai fucking said once he found out the Avatar was back. He was probably like,
"Are you shitting me? 100 years of no sign of the Avatar, and then like what 2 years after I send Zuko out, he fucking finds them? Like, are you shitting me?"
But yeah, so I like this. The lieutenant even like says like, so that's why Zuko's so obsessed, because finding the Avatar is his way he could return his life to normal. And even Iroh then says like, look, things are never gonna return to normal. But this gives Zuko hope that like things can turn around for him. So I do like that. Well, you're getting Zuko's perspective. Like, yeah, he wants to find the Avatar because he thinks like putting home the Avatar is gonna make everything will go back to normal for Zuko. But even I will even kind of see that that's an unrealistic goal for like Zuko and everything like that.
I like this because that's a point Katara makes in this episode, and she's made it before, is that like Aang being the Avatar gives people hope. And it's kind of interesting that in a twisted way, like, it's a hope for Zuko too. Because like obviously you think it is, but yeah. And this is brought up in future episodes too, where if you remember like that time in book 2 where Zuko and Iroh like stay at that house for dinner, like in the Earth Kingdom village, and the girl like tries to tell Zuko like, I know you think all hope is lost, but like there is hope, like the Avatar's returned. And Zuko just kind of quietly says like, I know.
Yeah. So
yeah, I do like that. Like, it is interesting that, like, yeah, in a weird way, like Aang being the Avatar gives Zuko hope, just like it does Katara and everybody else.
Yeah. But yeah, and then Zuko's plot ends off where you see him meditating, and you see like he has like visions of the past, that like his relationship with his dad was like actually pretty decent. We see them playing as kids. We see that his dad's there. We see that his dad like has his arm over his shoulder. You get to see what Zuko was like when he was younger. So Zuko's obviously because when we've seen him meditating, Zuko's obviously trying to meditate to a better time when the relationship between him and his father was actually like pretty solid and everything like that. So it's really interesting about the fact, which is really interesting considering the fact that when you see the actual past of Zuko as a kid, it wasn't what Zuko actually like thought and everything like that.
Yeah, that is interesting. So to give my thoughts real quick, well, one, I like that we get these flashes again in the future. We're gonna find out that this is from Ember Island. That like his family would go on vacation to Ember Island, and like this is like from that time.
Yeah.
And in mentioned, you could see Zuko playing with another kid, and like Ozai's walking with them in the background. So that's like another hint that Zuko isn't an only child. Like he has a sibling.
Yep.
Who's Azula, obviously. And I love I love that like how it looks like it's like a painting.
Yeah.
And obviously like the cut, like fade from what Zuko used to look like when he was like 12 or 13, and then like fading to present day. And it's not even just that like he has a scar now. Like in the past, Zuko like had a very warm like smile, and then now he's just like a frown. And his like face is covered in wrinkles. Like he just like, it's not just like he has a scar now. Like his face looks completely different, just from like how angry and full of like hate he is now.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like you said, Zuko's past is interesting because we've gotten mixed things on it, where he'll mention that like his like he's mentioned in future episodes too, that like his family used to not be all that bad. Like they used to be happy. But then like then he's also mentioned that like his father said like my sister was born lucky. I was lucky to be born. So it's kind of you get like mixed things, and like obviously the Zuko alone shows that like his past wasn't always that great. I think the idea is that like when Zuko was real little and like his mom was still around, his dad was pretty okay. Like they were decent,
right?
And like Ozai actually kind of cared about Zuko, but then like as Zuko started getting older, Ozai started to get like ambitious and wanted the throne, because as we're going to find out, Iroh is the older brother, and Iroh is going to be the one who's next in line. But after Iroh was in Ba Sing Se and lost his son, Ozai started to get the idea in his head like, I can be the next Fire Lord now. So yeah, I think the idea is that like Ozai used to be kind of a decent dad, and then he started to get ambitious and started to be like, nah, fuck my kids, I just want the throne.
Yep. But yeah, Zuko's backstory I really like. What makes it even better is obviously then you find out there's more to Zuko. He wasn't just like a one-note villain like we've been talking about these whole Avatar episodes. As we've talked about, when you kind of, now it makes a lot of sense why Zuko's really willing and wants to get the Avatar, and why he's willing to go through any lengths. I feel like this also points out a lot of things. This kind of explains like why Iroh's kind of been dealing with Zuko, and like, because obviously Zuko's just full of hate, and he saw what Zuko had to go. Well, even though he looked away, but like he was there for what Zuko had to go through. He kind of is understanding like that Zuko's just feeling all types of emotions right now, and I think he wanted the crew to kind of understand that, so that way he could keep the peace and everything like that. And again,
sorry, go ahead.
And again, this really changes Zuko's character point of view throughout the whole show, and like makes sense why Zuko ends up making the decisions that he ends up making, and why Azula ends up being a good villain for him, like in season 2, and everything like that. And it's really sad because what I was said ends up being right. Even though he didn't bring back the Avatar, when Zuko and the Fire Lord still weren't very close, even when he gets back to like home and everything like that. They're still kind of distant and everything like that, and everything like that. So, it makes Zuko's return to the Fire Nation even sadder, that like things still aren't the same and everything like that.
Oh yeah, that's one of my favorite things about the show, is that like Zuko basically gets everything he wants later on, and like it doesn't feel right to him.
Also, an interesting point I wanted to mention is it's kind of interesting in the past, in Zuko's backstory, he does speak out against the Fire Lord's plan, but when he had the opportunity to actually speak out in the present, like he didn't speak out, because don't forget, like,
yeah,
Well,
I remember that whole episode. He was like freaking out about the war meeting, like if he should go or not, and then like he finds out like no, like your dad does want you to go. He like won't start until you show up.
Mm-hmm.
And then after the meeting, like he mentions like, like it went great. Like I was the perfect son to my father, but like it wasn't me.
Yep.
Which is kind of the thing. Like here, when Zuko's being himself, like he's voicing his actual opinion. His father, challenges him to a duel and burns his face. So basically, Ozai only gives a shit about Zuko if Zuko's doing what he wants.
Yep. But yeah, I love the Zuko plot. it gets honestly, it would get like 5 thumbs up if I had the 5 thumbs. But it's I love getting this backstory, and it really changes this perception of Zuko because now you see that he's just a hurt soul, and he's willing to do like any dastardly thing, and that's why he's saying like fuck the crew and everything like that, and really, and again, Zuko hasn't really done anything like too drastic yet as a villain, where you can kind of buy this good. Like the only bad things he's really done is like obviously use Kataro's necklace and threatens to burn that, and well, I guess he did burn down the whole the Kyoshi Island and everything like that. But so I guess that was pretty bad. But you know,
I should point out because I was looking at the episode list. Zuko's only been like the main villain of 3 episodes so far.
Yeah, so
the Avatar 2, Kyoshi Island, and thank you, thumbs up, and Waterbending Scroll, and then he was like kind of in the Winter Solstice.
Yeah, but overall, I like Zuko's thing. Anything else you want to say about the Zuko's plot before you take over and talk about Ain's backstory?
Yep. So amazing backstory. It makes total sense why Zuko's the way he is. It makes sense why he's acting this way. As I said, he feels like he fucked up in the past by like caring and speaking out of turn. And now the way he's acting, he's basically trying to be the son Ozai wants. He's trying to be like cruel and like focused on his mission and like, not worrying about like, his soldiers and just focusing on getting the job done. And I think that makes sense why he's the villain, and I think him, as the show goes on, realizing that like the world isn't the way he thinks it is, and that like he made the right decision in the past. Like he made a good point. Like they shouldn't just throw away, lives as bait. And like, his father was wrong to challenge a 13-year-old kid to a duel just for speaking out of turn.
Yeah.
That's him realizing that later on is what leads to him like questioning everything else, but like here it makes sense why he's the way he is. Like he's so obsessed with getting his father's approval and trying to be the son his father wants.
Yeah. I will say, about the top of the Aang plot, I like that, I love the animation was different for both the backstories. Zuko's was very dark and gloomy, while Ain's was like very peaceful, until like obviously like the end when Ain's plot starts to go downhill. But I liked the
I was gonna say I do like how like because like a lot of shows will like kind of put like some kind of effect on it to like show it the flashback. Zuko's is very like tinted like red and orange, and it's like you said, kind of gloomy. Whereas Aang's is like very happy, like yellow, warm colors.
Yeah, really like the colors. So
yeah. And also, like as I mentioned, these flashbacks are both heavily involved with their father figures. And I like that Iroh's relationship with Zuko is kind of like a little side thing here, where, Iroh kind of he talks to Zuko very like, down to earth. He's like, you don't want to go to these meetings. They're very boring. There's a lot of old people.
Yeah.
But, when Zuko shows that like he's determined and wants to like go to the meeting to like improve himself, Iroh's like, yeah, sure. I'll let you come in. Come on. And, whereas Iroh burns Zuko's face for no reason, Iroh is like heartbroken by this and turns away. Huh?
You said Iroh, not the fucking. You said Iroh burns.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, Ozai burns Zuko. Imagine that plot twist.
Imagine the plot twist was Iroh was his opponent, not fucking like that was Iroh's actual plan.
Jesus. Well, listen. It would have been better if Ozai cut off Zuko's arm instead of burning his face. He was like, you know what? Deja vu here.
Yeah.
Imagine if after burning Zuko's face, Ozai was like, you don't know the truth. I am your father. And Zuko's like, what? I already knew that. He's like, all right, sorry, wrong thing.
One thing. Oh, yeah, because, yeah. Yeah, that's right. But yeah, let's go over...
as I was saying... Zuko respecting Iroh so much in the past, where he's like, thank you, uncle. That's obviously contrasting the present where, he constantly, like, is mean to Iroh and, like, angry with him.
Yep.
But that, like, that's not how Zuko really feels, like, because Winter Solstice Part 1, where Zuko had the chance to go after Aang, but he instead decided to like go rescue Iroh. And also you get a flashback in book 3, and they mention it's like 2 or 3 weeks after this flashback, where they're at the Air Temple, and Iroh's like trying to talk to Zuko, and Zuko is like pushing him aside, and he's calling him the laziest man in the Fire Nation. So kind of showing that like, only a couple weeks after this, Zuko was like taking a lot of his anger out on Iroh.
Yeah.
But like, I think that's in this flat, Iroh talking to the crew here, he knows why Zuko is the way he is. It kind of makes sense why Iroh is so patient with Zuko.
Yeah, exactly.
And he's being like the father figure he needs, which also makes sense to Iroh because he lost his son and he's trying to be a good father to Zuko.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But now let's go over Aang's plot line.
Yep. So Katara finds Aang, like, he flew off into the mountains. She finds him in like a little cave. And Aang again is kind of talking about how he he doesn't want to talk about it, but he's sorry for running away. Which obviously ties into later when we find out he's really sorry about running away. But, Katara, being like Iroh, is very understanding of Aang and trying to talk to him. She's like, hey, does this have to do with your dreams? Like, I think you would feel better if you talked about it. So they kind of get a fire going to wait out the storm. And Aang talks a bit about the day that he found out he was the Avatar. And I like this because this is like the same shot of the Southern Air Temple that we saw in the episode Southern Air Temple.
Yeah.
But it looks, like in the present day, it's all deteriorated. It was covered in snow. It looked like kind of shitty because obviously no one had been maintaining it for 100 years.
Right.
But, here, like, very warm colors. It looks full of life. You see all the Airbender kids, like, playing. And you see, like, a couple sky bison flying in the background.
Yeah, I like it.
So I like it just showing how full of life it is compared to the present day. And I also like this detail that Aang's the only one out of the kids his age that has an Airbender tattoo.
Mm-hmm.
And they never say it in the show, but this is like a background. This is like an extra detail that you get your Airbender tattoos when you are considered an Airbending master.
Yep.
And then Aang is the youngest Airbending master in history.
Yeah, which is insane.
So, obviously, like, Aang being the Avatar isn't the only reason why, he's just like a natural prodigy. Which we've been seeing a lot of lately, Ben, Goku, Aang, a lot of like people who really pick up on this stuff quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And Aang is showing them the air scooter, which I think I also mentioned, like, you're supposed to master like 30 something airbender techniques, and like Aang mastered like 35 out of 36, but he invented the air scooter, so that counted as like his 36th one.
Yeah, that's cool. That's a cool detail.
Yeah, so like if he's showing these guys the air scooter, that means he was probably got his tattoos pretty recently.
Yeah.
He's kind of showing everyone how it works, and then the other kids are trying to do it, but they can't. They kind of just fall off immediately. And Aang is trying to explain, like, oh, it's kind of like balancing on a top. And one of the younger kids is like, oh, hey, Aang, how'd you learn that trick? And Aang's just like, I made it up. And everyone's like super impressed, like, wow, like he made that? That's incredible.
Yeah, that's really impressive, to know that he made that up. Because I think if you watch the show, you would think that Aang just learned this from like Gyatso or something, but it's kind of cool that Aang made up this trick like himself and everything like that.
Yeah. And it's also sad that like here, before learning that he's the Avatar, everybody else like is impressed by Aang. They're like, "Oh man, you're so cool, Aang! Like you're just so talented."
Yeah.
But it's after they find out he's the Avatar that they kind of treat it like it's an unfair thing. That like he's so gifted.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the Airbending Council shows up, and they basically pull Aang aside and they bring him to like their also a cool detail is that like. Aang, Zuko has the war meeting in like the Fire Nation's throne room, and then here, this is like not the throne room, but like it's like the council room, I suppose.
Yeah.
And different it is, like I said, all the dark colors. There's a big war table with generals everywhere. Whereas here, it's a very like empty room. Warm colors. in the throne room in the Fire Nation, it's the Fire Lord behind a wall of fire, like overlooking everybody. Here, the council is like, they're all sitting on like little boxes with like umbrellas.
Yeah.
And, like, the roof is like made of vines and like sunlight shining through, like just showing how different the Airbenders are compared to like the Imperial Fire Nation.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's also interesting because, now we kind of get a feel for how all the nations operate. The Fire Lord oversees the Fire Nation. The North and Southern Water Tribes have chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
The Earth Kingdom has like multiple Earth Kings. And then, now here we found out the Airbenders have like a council.
Yep.
So that's cool.
I like that.
And then, Aang is like saying like, "Are you sure it's me? Like, I don't believe that I'm the Avatar." And they say that they've known for quite some time that Aang was the Avatar, and they show him 4 children's toys, and Aang is immediately like, "Oh, cool! These are my old toys." And they mention that like Aang, as a small like toddler, presumably, picked out these toys out of thousands and thousands of toys, and that these are the 4 Avatar relics. And Aang's like, "Oh, I just picked these because they looked fun. You guys are overthinking it. Like, I just picked them because I like them." But the Airbender Council is like, "No. You picked them because they were familiar to you. These were your toys in your past lives, so you picked them because they were familiar to you."
That makes sense. I kind of like that. You could tell at an early age. It's like a little thing like that. It's not just random. They like just decide he's the Avatar and everything like that.
Yeah, picking the wrong guy. Well, it makes sense that they have like a method to find out who's the Avatar, because like the Avatar has been a thing for thousands of years. Yeah, it makes sense they have kind of a method to figure out who it is.
Yeah.
Because it wouldn't be that when you think about it. Okay, the last guy dies, the new guy's reborn in the next nation right after. So you pick like, okay, somebody who's born around this time is the Avatar. Have them pick the bullshit. Whoever picks the toys is the guy. Or girl.
Yeah, could be a girl.
And this also makes sense because Aang has been shown to like recognize stuff from his past lives before. Remember, he recognized the statue of Roku and he knew its name.
Yep.
And so, how did you know? How do you know his name? Like, there's no like name on it, and Aang's just like, I don't know, I just know. And this is pretty consistent. Like in the Legend of Korra, Korra will kind of like remember some stuff from her past lives. Like she sees like a teapot who belonged to a previous Avatar, and she's like, "Oh, hey, my teapot."
Yep.
Or I think there's one example with Aang. I can't remember which one, but she like sees something that was in Aang's life, and she's like, "Oh, hey, shit, I remember that." But like it's not like a conscious thing. Like obviously, Aang thinks he just picked the toys because they looked fun, but he's it's like a subconscious. He remembers them from his past lives.
Exactly. Yeah.
And this is also a real world thing. This is based on the Dalai Lama. So they believe the Dalai Lama is like the Pope of Buddhism, essentially, to make that comparison. And they believe that he reincarnates, and they pick the new Dalai Lama by like somebody will pick the old Dalai Lama's like relics, like out of a bunch of relics, and they're like, "Oh, you picked the previous one, so you're the new guy."
That's cool. I like that.
Because I think I mentioned before that Gyatso was actually the name of a real life Dalai Lama.
Yeah, you did mention that. Yeah, because I remember hearing that before.
Which again makes sense that the air nomads are heavily inspired by Buddhism and the Tibetan monks and all that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
A big thing I like is Avatar would do all this research, and then it ends up being like good, like written really well in the show. Because I remember.
I like that they're using real world like concepts, but they're also like making it fit in the world. It's not just a reference. Like again, it makes sense that they would have like some method of finding the Avatar, and they've shown before, and they're going to show in the future that like the Avatar will kind of like subconsciously remember stuff from their past lives.
Because I remember in Yellow Jackets, I think when they read behind the scenes stuff, they'll try to like use research for like PTSD, but they don't really incorporate it like well in the fucking show sometimes.
Yeah. like, okay, I'm glad that you did the research for real life stuff, but you got to actually like make it make sense in the show too, you know?
Yeah. So. Well, like mental health's a big one. They'll do research for mental health, but as you've seen, like some people's mental health are bad, but it's not written really well in the fucking just show of Yellow Jackets sometimes.
You know, again, I always appreciate when you use real life concepts, but you also got to make it work, especially if it's in a fantasy setting.
Yeah.
You know, a big example I think is Star Wars, where in the original trilogy and the prequels, they'll use like real world examples of like history. You know, like the Empire in Star Wars is heavily inspired by like the British Empire and Nazi Germany and all that shit. But like they don't just say like this guy's Hitler. You know, like they also make it make make sense in the world.
I think the most egregious example where they didn't make it make sense. Didn't they like in the Netflix Death Note? They said like Kira got his name, but like it was like really fucking wrong. Like in the Netflix, like.
But yeah. So in the show, they get the name Kira because it's like they're taking the English word killer and like turning it from killer to Kira.
Yeah.
But in Netflix one, they're saying like, oh, Kira is the Japanese word for killer. I'm like, no, it's not. It's the English word for killer.
So they really fucked that up. So
yeah, and then they also said like it's Dutch for light, and it's like, first of all, light, dumbass. Why would you use a word that's similar to your real name? But it also doesn't light in Dutch.
So
wrong.
So I guess they just didn't do the research. Should say they were just making shit up.
Yeah, that's an example of like they did negative research. Like, they looked in a book that's wrong or something.
Oh my god.
Well, also to make the Star Wars comparison again, in the sequel trilogy, because I fucking hate the sequels, they did a whole like casino planet, and they basically just used the whole subplot to be like capitalism is bad. I'm like, okay, but like you're using it in a setting that doesn't make sense in.
I can't wait till we get to that point.
They're wanting to use a message to the real world that doesn't work in Star Wars.
You're gonna have to. I can't wait to see that, I guess.
Yeah, that shit sucks. And they're like using kid slaves, and I'm like, why are you using kid slaves? Why wouldn't you use like droids and shit like we see in Jabba's palace?
Yeah, you're gonna have to really show me that shit.
Oh my god, that shit is horrible. Anyway, moving back to Avatar, which is actually good, unlike the sequels and or fucking Netflix Death Note. Yeah, so we cut to a little bit in the future. Aang is like joining the other kids, and you see that they've all kind of picked up on the air scooter. They're all riding around, and they mentioned they even like made a gang with the air scooter. And Aang is like, "Oh, great! I want to join." Because Aang, of course, is still a kid. He wants to have fun and play games.
Right.
But as he gets on the air scooter, everybody else gets off. And they kind of just say, like, well, Aang, now that you're the Avatar, it's not really fair to, like, whatever team you're on. Because, like, obviously that team's going to win.
Yeah. I want to mention, by the way, to go back to the scene earlier, because, like, you would think Aang would be excited to be the Avatar, but when he gets that meeting, he's like, you see he has a look on his face that he's not really sure how to, like, feel about being the Avatar.
Oh, thank you for, I totally forgot there was more to that conversation. I totally forgot. Thank you. That they normally only tell the Avatar they're the Avatar at the age of 16, but they're telling Aang now at the age of 12 because they see storm clouds approaching. Like basically, like they believe that like a war is upon them, and that like needs to like begin his Avatar process quicker.
Yeah.
And basically, they're going to strip Aang of his childhood. Like they're going to make Aang prepare to be the Avatar way sooner than he did normal.
Right.
Which, isn't very fair. Like we see with Roku and the Avatar and the Fire Lord. That, Roku gets told when he's 16. And like, he gets years to train in all the elements, Kind of shows that Aang gets a shit deal where he gets told way sooner. And like he's gonna have to like rush his training, and he's gonna have to be the Avatar during a time of war.
Yeah, it's really
Yeah, the air nomads are all about like peace and love and all that hippie stuff. So Aang, that sucks for Aang, who doesn't like killing, and he's like gonna have to fight in the whole war.
Yeah, it's wild. Yeah.
Yeah, and it also makes sense that they kind of know war's coming. Besides dark clouds, because in that same episode with Roku, the Fire Lord started invading the Earth Kingdom like decades ago. When Roku was still alive.
Yeah.
So presumably at this time, the Earth Kingdom and the Fire Nation are in kind of like a Cold War, where they're both kind of like building up their armies and like they're kind of like tensions are high.
Right.
So everyone could kind of tell there's a war coming, but like nobody really knows when.
Right. They're just kind of waiting for someone to strike.
Which and strike they did.
Yep. On them, actually.
Yeah, on them specifically. I like how the air nomads are kind of thinking like, oh man, the Earth Kingdom is going to get attacked soon. And then Sozin's like rubbing his fingers like, oh, you don't even know. Wait a couple months.
I want to point this out. They didn't just strike. Kyato also fucking strikes too.
Oh yeah, I was going to say, I'm amazed you see Gyatso walking around and actually no, he's not walking around. Every scene he's in this episode, he's like sitting down. And it makes sense. He can't walk with his massive fucking balls.
Yeah. So
that's why he's sitting down in all these scenes.
Except the scene where he's standing up later on. Walking.
Yeah, well, you don't see he's like dragging it. He's wearing a big like robe. It's because his fucking nutsack reaches the floor.
Yeah.
And again, I love whenever Aang is like, I can't kill anybody. It's against the Air Nomad way. And meanwhile, Gyatso is like, fucking out for blood, I'm going 50 you fuckers with me.
I'm dying anyways. You might as well just put my beliefs aside. I like to think.
Yeah, I know.
I like to think. I remember that like scene. The last second. Where Anakin Skywalker finally got to die, like being a Jedi, like go have a peaceful death. Right at the fucking end there, Kyato went.
Yeah. What? Fuck all this peace bullshit. I want some blood. Oh god, yeah, no, I fucking love Gyatso. He's only in like this episode, but he's like fucking awesome guy.
Yeah.
And also before the like the air scooter thing that I was just talking about. If you remember, there was a flashback in the Southern Air Temple where Aang is kind of hanging out with Gyatso, and Aang is kind of depressed about like the whole Avatar thing, and he's kind of like, maybe the monks made a mistake, which makes sense because Aang was questioning it. He's like, I don't really believe I'm the Avatar.
Yeah.
And Gyatso says like, oh no, they're right, but the only mistake they made was telling you before you're 16.
Mm-hmm.
So in that episode, they already imply that like, oh, they told Aang early. That's weird. Now we know why, because they knew the war was coming. But also in that scene, like they're kind of making pies and throwing them at the other air nomads. So kind of showing that like, Gyatso's the one letting him still be a kid, and he's not pressuring Aang to be the Avatar.
And also showing that there's like a disconnect, like there's a disconnect between Gyatso and like the council or the nomads or whatever type of thing.
Yeah, which also makes sense because as we find out in Avatar and the Fire Lord, that Gyatso was like really good friends with Roku when they were kids.
Yep.
So that makes sense why Gyatso is like the one who's the guardian of Aang because he was really good friends with the previous Avatar.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, the other kids are saying like, Aang, now that you're the Avatar, like we can't have you on the team. And I feel bad for Aang here, where he's like, but I'm still the same. Like nothing's changed, and he kind of walks away sadly. And I do like this, where the other kids are like, sorry, Aang. Like they're not bullying him like on purpose. Like they're all kids, And like they said, they're like, now that you're the Avatar, like they don't really fully get it. Like they think Aang becoming the Avatar is like a recent thing.
Right.
Like they don't realize like always been the Avatar. Like nothing has changed about him. But like Aang is feeling like it feels like everything's changed now that he knows he's the Avatar.
Yeah.
So he's excluded from like the other Air Nomad kids. And you see, Gyatso and Aang are like playing pie show. And Gyatso's like messing around with him. Like he like flips Aang's like hood over his head and like swaps the thing to like cheat. And Aang kind of has a laugh about it.
Yeah.
But then this crotchety asshole, who's probably I died and became the new old guy. Like Gyatso is now Momo, and this guy became the fucking fisherman.
I would have loved that. Yeah.
Yeah. Just he's destined to be an asshole old man. And he's like, hey, he comes in and he's like, I smelt you fuckers having fun. We don't do that here. and he's like, what's happening? The Avatar should be training, like not having, playing games. And Gyatso, I also do like this. Gyatso's not like neglecting his training. He says like, Aang's already trained today. Like he's had enough. Now we get to have some fun. And the other guy is like trying to supersede Gyatso. He's like, Aang, come with me. You need to, be drilled on some high level techniques. And then I do like this where Gyatso isn't like a pushover. Again, he's got massive nuts of steel. He's like, no. I'm his guardian. I say when he trains, and I say when he gets his butt kicked in Taisho.
Yeah. I do like this, though. You could, even though this guy's being an ass, you could kind of see his perspective, because he's obviously stressed, knows what's coming, aims the Avatar, like, he needs to be getting crash course, so, like, he wants to try to, like, make sure Aang knows everything very quickly, since, like, time's limited, so...
Yeah, it makes total sense. So yeah, but I do like this. It's really showing like Gyatso's kind of like the one positive light in his life. Like he's the only person treating him the same as he did before.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, probably not the only person, because like Aang has friends around the world, but the only person like out of the air nomads.
Yeah.
And then a little while later, Crotch the old man is talking to Unibrow. Master Unibrow, that's his name. He tattled on Gyatso, and he's like, saying that like, we can't be wasting time when there's a war approaching. Like the Avatar needs to be drilled, and like, his training needs to be sped up. And Gyatso is like saying like, all I want is for Aang to grow up as like a normal boy. Like I want what's best for him. And I do like this where Unibrow, again, like you said, I understand their reasoning. The Unibrow is basically like Gyatso, like, I know you mean well and I know you care about Aang, but like, what we need to focus on is what's best for the world. Like, you can't let your personal feelings like get in the way here.
Yeah. I do like this because, the main like councilman, obviously like, isn't being a douche, but he's like thinking like, okay, we have to think what's best for the world, and you can kind of tell like he's a little hesitant, but like, he's like, we have to think what's best for the world, like we have to, it has to be like learning Avatar stuff, like you can't be, and he even says like, Gyatso's like too close to the situation, like, he's thinking too personally.
Gyatso says like, I just want him to grow up as a normal boy, and like, that's. I understand it, but like at the same time, like I don't think that's completely correct either.
Yeah.
Like Aang is the Avatar. They do kind of have to prepare him for that. Again, it's just unfortunate. Aang basically just got a raw deal.
Yeah.
Like Aang, like I think in Gyatso's perfect world, they would have told Aang when he's 16, and they would have started preparing him after that. But because of the Fire Nation being dickheads, they kind of have to speed it up.
Yeah, exactly.
And basically Unibrow says, like, okay, look, we're going to, like, you guys have to be separated. Like, you're too close to it, and you're kind of getting in the way of Aang learning to be the Avatar. So we're going to send Aang to the Eastern Air Temple to finish his airbending training. And also, I don't think, by the way, it's hinted at in the show, but I think it's said outside the show. The air temples are gender segregated. So the Southern Air Temple and the Eastern Air Temple are where the guys live, and then the North and West are where the female airbenders live.
So how do they meet? Like, do they have to just go to like the other air temples? How do they meet other people?
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I mean, like they're free to travel to like the air, but it's just I think it's just like they live at because like as we talk about, Aang tries to travel to the Earth Kingdom and the Fire Nation. For some reason, not the South Pole. Fuck the South Pole, I guess.
I guess so.
But the air nomads kind of travel wherever, but like they just generally live at specific temples.
That's true, yeah.
Because Aang's been to all the air temples, but like he just doesn't. He stays at the male one.
Yeah, yeah.
And what also makes sense because like the air nomads don't really raise their kids. Because like Aang's never really talked about his parents, and Zuko mentioned that like I guess you wouldn't really know about fathers because you were raised by monks.
Right.
Like presumably if air nomads have a kid, they give up the kid and like it's raised by the community.
Yeah, that's true.
And also in Korra, they mentioned like in the comics, they mentioned that like the Aeronomads are really like free loving, like I think they mentioned like the Fire Nation after Sozin took over, big like outlawed like gay marriage, but the Aeronomads didn't really give a shit about that. They were kind of just like love who you love.
Apparently, the fucking like the old guy fucking didn't believe in any of that shit because he's fucking.
Yeah. Oh, you love Aang like a son? Get the fuck out of here.
Yep, he fucking doesn't abide by any. Why is he even a monk? He's a fucking douche.
Asshole. Like I'm about to say, this guy, isn't really about that whole free love, like free spirit shit.
He's the opposite. He's about the free hate. I guess what? Like no.
Yeah. He's like, I'm all about freedom, and I'm free to hate all of you fuckers.
Yeah, I guess so. I like to. Anytime he's animated in the show, he always has. He's never smiling. He's always fucking angry in the fucking show too.
I was born with a frown on his face. Yeah. Also, like I mentioned, the Aeronomads, even though they're free love, they are kind of against attachments. Like, as Aang mentions in future episodes, the Aeronomads are all about like, letting your spirit be free and not being bogged down by attachments.
Yeah.
So that does also make sense why Unibrow is like, look, Gyatso, like you and Aang are a little too attached to each other. Like not even just Avatar stuff. Like that's also an Airbender thing where you're not supposed to be too attached to people.
So that's why I guess that's why the douchebag is like he's not attached to anything. So
yeah, no, he's like he's attached to his hatred. He's like, oh, fuck you all.
So how does that work if he has to give up that attachment somehow?
Yeah, and Unibrow was like, you have to let go of your attachment to hatred. He's like, no, never. It's like Mr. Krabs. I'd rather the Fire Nation come in here right now and eat you all alive.
That's this guy, yeah.
Yeah. Also, by the way, it's really sad that like we're seeing all these like little kids like having fun on the air scooters, and like they all die horribly in like a couple months.
Yeah, that's true. What about that old guy? Do you think the douchebag is? Do you think he got by the air pet?
I think he joined the Fire Nation. He's like, listen, guys, I'm all for it. We're burning these fuckers down. I'm all for it, 100%. I'll join you guys. Where can I sign up?
The reverse effect. He tries to join them, but they all just burn him all at once, type of thing. Like,
I would love that. But yeah, I do like this detail, or like in the background, because I mentioned like the roof is like all vines and like sun is coming through. You can actually see Aang kind of in the background, like he's blurry, and then it like zooms in, and you like fully see him, and he's like shocked.
Yeah,
because he was like easy on this meeting. And it cuts to a little later. Aang's like in his room, and he looks all depressed, like seeing all the other kids like on the air scooters having fun. And like it's Aang's right to be upset. Like he's basically getting his childhood like ripped away from him.
Yeah, exactly.
And he mentions like in present day he's narrating, and he says like I was confused and like and I was afraid, and I didn't know what to do.
Oh, you got to see Aang go into the Avatar scene in the present a little because he was.
Yeah, where Katara is like, sympathizing with Aang, and she's like, that's messed up. I can't believe the monks like, made you go away like that. And Aang like gets up and he's like, I like how he's still upset about it. Because remember, as he's gonna say a little bit, for him, this was like all a couple weeks ago, really. For him, like he gets frozen in the iceberg, and like the next thing he knows, he's waking up in Katara's arms.
Yeah.
So like that, he's still upset about it. He's like, how could they like do that to me? They wanted to take me away from everything I knew and loved. And like, yeah, for a split second, he like was about to go in the Avatar state, like his tattoos lit up.
Mm-hmm.
But
I wonder if Roku was extra pissed. Like, I wonder if Roku was extra pissed, or like trying to get away from that. He's like, "Shit, this is my fault. This is all my fault," type of thing. Like when he got channeled, he's like, "Oh shit, this is my fault. I'm gonna sit this one out."
Yeah.
I should have been a better. I should have been a better Avatar.
I know, right? I should have, should have killed Sozin when I had the chance. This is my bad. But yeah, I also do like this where Aang goes in the Avatar state, and like he's like shooting air out, and like the fire is getting blown towards Katara. She's like, "Whoa, careful, Aang!" Because one, I think that's foreshadowing that Aang is going to burn Katara in the fire in a few episodes. And also, like, I also think it makes sense that Aang calms down when Katara is like, "Hey, careful," because you know, he almost hurt Katara and Sokka in the Southern Air Temple.
Yep.
So yeah, Aang, you know, continues the story. Well, actually, I guess he doesn't, because this next part Aang doesn't know about. Where you see Gyatso again dragging his fat ass nutsack across the hallway. And Aang and Gyatso like bangs on Aang's door, and he tries to whisper to Aang like, "Hey Aang, like I'm not gonna let them take you from me."
I wonder what his plan was.
Which is, you know, like Aang didn't get to hear him say that.
Yeah, that is sad. What do you think his plan was, by the way? Do you think like he was just gonna try to fight it and then like, you know?
Yeah, he probably just would have like taken Aang with him, and they probably would have like run away together essentially. Well, maybe not run away, but like they would have like. I think he would have just continued Aang's training like by himself.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, but it's really sad where he opens the door and he realizes like Aang's not there, and he sees a paper on Aang's bed, and presumably it's like, you know, saying like I'm running away, like I can't deal with this after stuff.
Yeah.
And you know, narrating says like I never saw Gyatso again, which again it sucks because Aang basically never got to know that Gyatso wasn't gonna let Aang like be taken away from him.
Yeah, so he was thinking like he was gonna get taken away, and he didn't know Gyatso was gonna try to fight it or anything like that. So
Yeah, like the last time he saw Gyatso was probably that meeting, you know, where like he, as far as he knew, Gyatso was gonna let him get taken away.
yeah, that sucks.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, though, I want to say, we are doing a lot of shit where old men are just lying to our protagonists. You know, Obi-Wan in Return of the Jedi bullshitting Luke about Darth Vader not being Anakin.
Yep.
Rey not mentioning the Goku, like, hey, by the way, Gohan found you in like a weird ass thing, and you're probably not from Earth. And then, you know, now Gyatso being like, oh yeah, no, we all knew you were the Avatar for like your whole life, and we just kind of been laughing about it. You're like, Aang doesn't know he's the Avatar.
Yep. It's probably. Oh, and then, you know, Boomy not mentioning who he was to Aang. I mean, I guess they were the same.
Oh yeah, that whole time, and like literally, Sokka's like, why didn't you say to Aang like who you were? And Boomy literally just says like, well, first of all, it's kind of fun to just mess with you people.
I just love to think he's like laughing about the fact that he almost got like Katara and like Sokka like killed, pretty much type of thing.
Yeah, we now we got to start a new council. You know, we had the cool guy table, like the Chad table, and now we got like the old men who love Lion Club.
Mm-hmm.
Boomy, Gyatso, Iroh's lying about being in the White Lotus.
Yep.
Roshi, Gohan, Obi-Wan, and Yoda.
Oh, did Yoda lie?
Oh, I knew who Vader was.
Oh, that's true. I get. Oh, also,
I remember when we brought it up in Return of the Jedi, Yoda tried to be like, "Oh, I'm very tired. I can't talk about it."
Don't forget, Obi-Wan also lied about Luke having a twin sister. He never mentioned that.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And if Yoda didn't bring it up, he probably wouldn't have.
Yeah. So, there's probably other times too where like old men have. I mean, Mr. Krabs lies to SpongeBob a lot, so that's one.
Yeah. Council. He's on the council of lying old men.
But he's wise. He's not. He said wise though. He's not really. Is he really wise?
He gives some good advice now and again.
Okay, that's another one.
He's a part-time member. You know, he only shows up 20 hours a week.
Oh, what about that Diamond Head that lied to Ben? Like he could have just disappeared anytime he wanted.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, you know, yeah. Tetrax, yeah, no, he's full of shit. Again, he decided to not tell him about Vilgax.
So this one, Max kind of lying about his past. I mean, he doesn't say. He says he's a
perfect. No, he's a lying sack of shit too.
I mean, he says he's a plumber though, but he doesn't.
Quite. Yeah. I guess he's telling the truth in the same way Obi-Wan was telling the truth that Vader murdered Anakin.
Yeah. Anybody in Danny? I don't think we have like an old wise man lying in Danny. I don't think so.
Frostbite eventually, where he decides to not tell Danny about his ice powers.
Yeah, but we're not there yet, so we can't put that in the counter. So, nobody in Yellow Jackets because nobody is like really old or anything like that. So, you know, it's
yeah. No, I guess all the Yellow Jackets they're lying about shit.
But they're not old. So
they're old enough, you know.
not old like that. Not old like that. So
all right, fine.
yeah. So you know, nobody. Anyone in OVB that's like old?
Oh, Rick and Morty.
Yeah, we can put that on the counter.
You know, because obviously he didn't tell Morty that he's Rick Grimes' grandson.
Yep. But is he wise?
I mean, he's smart. Kind of smart and wise are two different things. But again, he's a part-time member. He shows up 20 hours a week.
Okay. And then I'm trying to think. No one in OVB, like we said, because there's no one that's old.
I mean, the director, kind of.
Yeah, the director doesn't tell anybody anything.
Yeah, I know, right? He was lying about Alpha and all that shit.
Yep. So, I mean, well, he's not old, but what about Florida? Because obviously he was lying for years about Why is he not old? Not old enough.
He's not. We don't know how old he is. Part-time member.
Okay. I'm trying to think, and then what else? Inception. No one's lying.
Cobb is an old man in his mind. Remember, because he lived to be an old man, and with whatever
Sato. So.
No, not. Also him, but no, his wife.
Oh yeah. I forget her name.
He was lying about all that shit. He can join.
And then his father-in-law kind of lied to the character we didn't like about what the fuck the mission was about. That's the whole thing's a lie.
Part-time member again. He only shows up 3 days a week.
And then I'm trying to think of other Shane. I don't think no one's lying there.
No.
Death Note Ryuk's kind of bullshitting a lot. He bullshits with Light a lot. Is he old? Is he old and wise?
Yeah, he's very old. Wise, I don't know. Again, part-time member. He can be part-time.
Okay. And then Evil Dead. Oh, that old guy in the fucking on the tape. We don't know if he's old, but the researcher doesn't really mention what the fuck the.
Yeah, I know, right? He says the words that awaken the fucking demons, but doesn't say why. All right, thanks, buddy.
Is he? But we don't know how old he is, but he sounded pretty old from the tape. So.
Yeah, and then again, a lot of people have old voices.
Can we put
part-time member?
Unless we find out his age, so.
And in which case, he'll be upgraded to full-time.
What about the Evil Dead spirits? They're pretty old.
Do they lie?
Actually, yeah, they lied to Ash because they made Ash think that his sister and his girlfriend were fine, so they lied to him.
You know what? The Evil Dead spirits. Yep, they joined the council.
But we don't even. But we don't know if they're men or not, though.
Fine. Lying old people. We want to be gender inclusive. We want to be safe. Women be filthy fucking liars too.
Yep. I think we have I think we have all the shows we've. Breaking Bad. Mike lies to Walt a lot.
You're right.
Walt lies to Jesse.
Yep. Walt and Mike definitely join the council.
Well, what's old? What's age you get? I would say 50s.
Yeah, 50. I think that counts.
Because, so yeah, I think we have everybody. So
there we go. So anyway, getting back with the episode.
I feel bad. Your plot will deviate into a lot of little fucking side conversations, and this is supposed to be your time to talk. Whatever.
I mean, come on. We've done 3 things in a row where old men are lying about all that really important shit. So we kind of had to bring it up.
Yeah.
Coincidence? I think not. It was all Jimmy. What is that? What is it Chuck says? He orchestrated it all. It was all Jimmy.
Oh yeah.
Or something like that.
I haven't seen that. I don't think I've seen that episode in a while, but I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. And anyway, you know what? And I think people might want to call Aang stupid for escaping the storm, but I think that was the point. He wanted to use the storm as cover to run away.
Actually, wait.
And also Aang's 12. I think it makes sense that he would run away with all this pressure on him.
I just realized a big one. Because technically, Aang lied to Katara and Sokka. He qualifies as old.
Yeah, 112. You're right. He joins the council.
So,
do you think him and the other air nomads were kind of side-eyeing each other, like on the council?
I wanted to count him, and I wanted like, how the fuck did you join this council? And Aang's like, I kind of lied to some people that, well,
about Avatar, yeah.
I was about to say, did he lie? But no, he does lie because Katara asks about him, and Aang says, yeah,
I knew people who knew him. Yeah, sure.
It's not a lie, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, yeah, he does know himself. Yeah, it's like the Obi-Wan thing. Like, of course I know him. He's me.
No, I was gonna say because he knew like his friends knew who he was, so that
His friends. You're right. That is correct.
So, it's. But yeah, But I kind of cut you off. Want to just say what you were saying earlier about the storm thing because I don't think people heard you.
I don't think Aang's being dumb here. Like, one, if he's trying to run away, it makes sense that he would try to like use the storm as like cover. And also, like, he is 12. Like, I totally see him making the irrational decision. Like, I'm under so much pressure. I don't want to be the Avatar. Like, I'm just gonna run away. And like, he's not like really thinking clearly.
Yeah, thinking too if he wants.
Aang, like we mentioned, like Ben being afraid of clowns. It's like he's 10 years old. And like it's season 1. Like I can buy. He kind of has this like irrational fear. If this was like Aang book 3. Or, Ben at fucking, Ultimate Alien. Like, that kind of stuff would be dumb.
Yeah.
But, like, this Aang, before the show even starts, he's a very young kid. I can totally see him making this, like, decision. Like, he's, like, too afraid.
I can buy this, too, because, as a kid, he's like, well, if I run away, they're not going to be able to find me, and then I don't have to be... They're going to send me away anyway, so, like, well, I don't want to... Yeah. So...
Yeah, if they're sending me away anyways, like, I don't want to be the Avatar. Like, I just want to, be a kid.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. They never say where he's going. Presumably he wasn't even like thinking about it. Like he was just like going wherever.
Yeah. Probably would have found someplace. So.
Yeah.
Maybe to the Earth. Maybe to the Earth can see Boomy. Maybe Boomy. He was hoping Boomy. Would
yeah. I can see that. Yeah. And to be perfectly honest, again, because he's 12, I can totally see him just like he runs away for a little while, and after he like clears his head and calms down, I can see him like going back.
Yeah.
But again, it's unfortunate because he gets caught in the storm. Appa can't fly clearly. They end up crashing into the ocean. The waves overtake him, and Aang, like the Avatar state activates like as a defense mechanism, and like he ends up like making an iceberg and freezing himself to like protect him and Appa.
Yeah.
And then he says like the next thing I knew, like I was waking up in your arms. Which is crazy that like, for that 100 years, like Aang, for him that was like, 5 seconds.
Yeah, exactly. I can buy that, obviously IOL if you get frozen for that long you die, but I can imagine like if there was a way around it, if you unfroze somebody, I can buy the fact that like they wouldn't feel like any time has passed. They just think it like it's only been a few seconds.
Well, also like, to be fair, he was in the Avatar state the entire time, which kept him alive.
Yeah.
Because I think I mentioned like like it's like 70 years in the future, so Aang would have been like in his 60s or whatever when he was away. And I think the reason they said is like Aang being in the Avatar state for like 100 years kind of shortened his lifespan a little bit.
Yeah. Well, I was also saying like because we've seen in other shows, like when, people get unfrozen, it feels like no time at all has passed. They're asking questions about what's going on here and there. It makes sense too by because, we're going to mention this because he was closer to like, the South Pole and everything like that. It makes sense why the water flows there because obviously the water's colder and everything like that type of thing. So, because then at the end of this episode, when he does it, it works out like fine. So
I was gonna make that joke. Like imagine Aang like frozen for like another 100 years.
Would he die then? Because you said it shortened his lifespan. So like that like doubly.
Yeah, Aang gets thawed out and he dies like 30 seconds later. He just has a stroke.
Because it's not like the Death Note thing where like your lifespan get don't forget that whole thing type of thing.
I mean he still lived to be 60s is like not bad.
Yeah.
So like didn't shorten his life probably.
But yeah, overall, that's the end of Vane's backstory. I know there's a little thing afterwards, but I guess I'll talk. Overall, really like Dane's backstory. I like that it's also really peaceful. And that's the big thing. I guess I could say, like, one thing I did like is they really did a good job with the backstories of blending them together. Like, what you got to, like, in the beginning, you see Aiden and Zuko's day-to-day life. And then, like, you get to kind of see, like, a big moment in both backstories at, like, around the same time that kind of causes the downfall, and then you get to actually see the downfall at the same time. I thought they spaced out their like backstories well. They cut to it pretty naturally and everything like that. Like they didn't like it wasn't uneven. One thing was happening. I really liked how that kind of happened. I gotta say, I mean, really respect this show. The episode's only a half hour, and they were able to really get a lot in there about like Aiden and Zuko's backstory. Because you think of, like we said. Even though there's not a lot of present, the middle section is all about, like, Aiden and Zuko's backstory. I think we got a commercial break before we see the backstories. We get one in the middle, but then, like, it ends at about, what, like, probably, like, maybe the 25, like, minute mark, I would say. You get, like, about maybe 15 minutes of the backstory, I would guess.
Yeah, it's between the two of them. So, really, that's only, like, 6-7 minutes of backstory.
So, good enough.
So, like, really good at like fitting all the important info in it. Like you really get a feel for like what their life was like and how how big that change was for them.
Yeah, I think like it's crazy because there's been times where we've covered like a Yellow Jackets episode, some of the RVB stuff, and like the some Walking Dead episodes. Some of those episodes are an hour, and sometimes they don't manage their time well. Like. I mean, again, like we said, seasons 9 and 10 of the Freelancer Saga got 2 seasons, and we still feel like we wanted more. Honestly, it's so crazy. Sometimes it's not just about how much time they give it; it's what you do with that time. We didn't get a lot of time with their backstory, but they made it feel like it was a lot of time, type of thing.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I 100% would have been cool with like longer flashbacks, but like at the same time, it doesn't feel like we need it. If that makes sense,
yeah.
Like I would. It's a very fine line where it's like I would love more, but like I feel like we got all we needed, like
yeah, because I don't think we get much more of Vane's backstory after this, right? This is it. Like Zuko's, we get some, but
yeah, like Zuko, and we get that like one flash of like it's like a couple weeks after this. Oh yeah, and obviously we have like before this when he was a kid. Yeah. So like this is like for the most part. They're past, like we don't get too much more expansion on it.
Yeah, so. But yeah, anything else you want to say about the back then before we move on to some present day stuff?
Oh yeah, so like I said, I like that the comparison between Gyatso and Ozai. Ozai was really intimidating. Again, I like that he wasn't like a fucking McDonald's manager. And one detail, because I haven't seen the live action show yet, but I did hear one detail that I really liked. So if you remember, like they mentioned, like, oh, the 40 whatever division is going to be like the bait to like we're going to sacrifice them for our real soldiers to go in and like fight the Earth Kingdom by surprise. In the live action show, I heard that like basically Ozai was like, Zuko, you're banished, go fuck yourself. And you know what? Since you care about the 40 whatever division so much, they're going to be your crew while you fuck off.
Oh, that's cool.
Iroh like telling the crew like that basically like Zuko is the reason that they're alive is like another reason they kind of like gain respect for him.
Okay.
So that's cool. Like that's not here, like we don't really know much about this crew. Presumably like they're just kind of like a skeleton crew that got thrown together to like help Zuko. But I really like that detail that, the reason they're there is because like Zuko defended them, and like they would have died. So I was like, since you care about them so much, here you go. You could have them.
Yeah, that would have been cool if they put that detail in the original show, I guess, but
yeah, like it's not bad that it's not there, but like it's a detail that I do like.
Yeah, that's cool.
And again, I've seen the live action show. I've heard mixed things. I've heard it's good. I've heard it's bad. I can't give you my opinion on it because I haven't seen it, but that is a detail that I like,
Yeah, I wonder how we'll review that show when we get to it because
yeah,
you know. But yeah, let's continue talking about the rest of the episode because we still have a whole present.
Yep. So after Aang tells a story, Katara is like trying to comfort him, and Aang's like, but the Fire Nation attacked our temples, and like, I'm the last Airbender, and like if I stayed, I could have helped. I could have helped not just the air nomads, but like everybody. But Katara kind of just gives them the the truth that like, Aang, if you stayed, you would have been killed too. And like, Aang tries to like be like, no, like you don't know that. But Katara's like, no, Aang, like I think even though it hurts, sucks, like I think it's better this way.
I do like Aang was thinking about himself, but I do like that he wasn't just talking about like himself. Like he's like, but I did turn my back on the world because for 100 years everyone wanted where it was to stop this war, and I like could have prevented it if I like didn't want to.
Yeah, exactly. Feeling a lot of guilt for that, but I do like Katara kind of echoes what she said in episode 1, where when Aang was like kind of upset that it's been 100 years. Katara is trying to say like, hey Aang, maybe there's like an upside to this, and Aang is like, well, at least I got to meet you. It kind of echoes into that, like, where Katara's like, I think Aang, I think it's meant to be this way, like you being here with us, and like, you being here now, like gives everybody hope.
Yeah.
And like I like that. That's kind of Aang when Aang turns his head back to Katara because he was like facing away from her. Him like turning back and he's like thanks her for that. And at this moment, old lady kind of comes in. Man, good thing she came now. When the story was over. Imagine if she like interrupted the flashback. I would have been like, "How about you go fuck yourself?"
And so remember that guy? Remember that waiter in like the Breaking Bad episode? It was like this real intense moment between like Hank, Skylar, Marie, and like Walt, and he kept coming.
And he like, "Hey guys, how you doing?"
And I remember even saying, because I feel he was supposed to be like the outsider's perspective, but I think all the fans were like, dude, fuck off. Like, this is good shit right here. Like, get the fuck out of here. Like, notice he fucked off pretty damn fucking quick, too. Like, after this. Like, okay, this.
Yeah. Like, okay. But yeah, the old woman says that, like, help, please. Like, like, they were supposed to be back by now, but the storm's gotten too strong. Like, I think they're caught at sea. I'm more amazed that she fucking made it all the way up here.
Yeah, I don't know where she was, too, because...
I mean, we kind of saw that, like, there was, like, a path leading to this cave.
Yeah.
But still, like, this seems to, like, we saw the mountains in the background of this village. This shit would have taken, like, a fucking, like, day to walk up to for a person, let alone this old fucking woman. And dude, in the rain, she should have been climbing up those steps, fucking slipped and fucking been like Peter Griffin falling down the stairs.
Yeah. I don't know.
But anyway, whatever. We kind of suspend our disbelief for a little bit. But yes, basically, Aang and Sokka and Katara are like, okay, let's go rescue Sokka. And the old woman is like, all right, cool, have fun with that. I'm staying here.
It's like I just walked into hours of rain. I'm not going back out there. So.
Right, she's opening up Tinder, on her phone. She's like, all right, well, time to find a new husband. So they, and then, yeah, I guess you could say your thing now.
So, yeah, after the Zuko meditating thing happened, lightning strikes the ship. And obviously this was cool because Zuko, like, turned. And obviously, like, Zuko is very worried about this. And he's like, what happened? And the lieutenant like tells Zuko like, we've been hit. And Zuko's kind of like making sure like everybody's okay. So you could kind of tell like what Iroh kind of said earlier, and him going through the situation, like it kind of stuck with Zuko a little bit and everything like that.
Well, it also is like I said, like Zuko puts on like the tough guy, angry act, but like he does care about Iroh. And we saw in the past he did care about the Fire Nation soldiers. So I think it's like he's just so angry that he puts it as a front. But, like, he does actually care about the crew.
Yeah. And, we see up, where they've been hit. And we see, like, the helmsman, again, no name, so I added him to the list, is dangling from, like, there's a ladder that goes up to, like, the ship, and he's dangling off of that. I had to look up what a helmsman was. This guy's really has probably the most important fucking job on the ship. He has to turn the ship. I didn't know what that was, so I'm like, oh, I could see why... I could see why they're worried about this guy. So,
well, Actually, maybe that's just his name. Like his first name is Helms and his last name is Mann.
Could be. And Zuko actually went out of his way to save this guy. Before I talk about the Iroh thing, that's a pretty big thing. But I'll talk about this first. He climbs up the ladder with the lieutenant, and the helmsman's about to fall off, but Zuko grabs his arm hand and saves him at the last second. Do kind of like this, because not like I think it could have been one thing. Zuko actually showed concern for him, but like the lieutenant went and saved him. I like that like Zuko actually like went out of his way to like save him. I thought that was really good. But we get a pretty big reveal that. It's a big reveal if you watch the other seasons, but you don't really get the context for this. We see lightning's about to strike again, and all of a sudden, Iroh catches the lightning and redirects it like back into the water. Obviously, this is our first reveal of lightning bending, but I like this. It's like a very quick moment, and we never hear about it again, but like it's expanded upon in seasons 2 and in season 3.
Like our only thing of it in book 1, like it's just a very quick thing. Nobody like acknowledges it. And it's just like, and they move on,
Yeah.
Which is like, whoa, what the fuck? Like you don't even really think about it at first, It's just like, whoa, that was crazy, and then like shit keeps happening, so it kind of just like you move past it.
Yeah. Again, I think it's good to mention this because I don't know, in Yellow Jackets, I don't know if we complained about this on camera, but like a big complaint we kind of have is like something will get brought up like in the present, then we immediately like see it in the past. Here it was like the opposite. We saw something in book 1. It's really cool, but there's so much, chaos going on, and they don't address it. They just kind of move on from it, and then we don't hear about lightning bending again until, like we said, like the beginning of like book 2 and everything like that. So it's really cool that like a quick moment happened here, and then we just kind of moved on from it, type of thing.
Exactly.
Think about how much different a conversation we could have had, obviously, if we never found out anything from this. So I actually like that, we got to introduce it early, but there was just so much stuff happening that no one really noticed it and everything like that. So, and again, that ends up being kind of cool. It's this episode because, again, don't forget, Zuko, like, finally is able to do this, like, towards his father, like, when he actually stands up to him and everything like that. So it's kind of cool in this episode when we find out about Zuko being banished. Lightning Bender was introduced. So,
yeah, I looked at it, it's actually kind of like it's a good mix of like being both funny and badass, because like you see Iroh like as Zuko and the lieutenant are climbing up the up the tower, like Iroh's kind of just like looking around like anticipating the next lightning strike, and then like he kind of like he notices it coming, and then like it's like it's really cool, like you see all the lightning all around him and he shoots it out, but then after you see like he kind of didn't do it properly. Because he's like burnt and he's like his hair's sticking up.
Yeah.
So like an example of like it's kind of like the Kamehameha wave, where they did a good job of making it both like funny and like cool. Like they struck that balance.
Yeah.
I also like that they didn't have it fully planned out yet. Like because if you notice, Iroh's like open palms when he does it. He like does it with like, but like in book 2 and 3, whenever they do lightning bending, it's with your fingers.
Yeah. So,
that's cool. I just wanted to point that out.
Kind of the first time you see Iroh he did.
Iroh hasn't done a whole lot of fighting, so this is our kind of first moment to say like, oh, Iroh's like, well, I mean, we saw him fight a little bit, but like this is our kind of showing that like, oh, he's like next level, like he's don't fuck with him. And
then right before your plot happens, Zuko sees Appa, and obviously he sees there's this good moment to see he could clearly go capture the Avatar, and again he could probably catch Aang here if he really wanted to, because Appa the storm Appa probably can't fly too well, so Zuko even says it like the Avatar, and the lieutenant's like, what do you want to do, sir? And this is actually the first decent thing I think Zuko has probably ever done in the whole show, where he says, I'm gonna let it go. The most important thing.
Out.
Huh?
Remember, like, do it, kill me, and Zuko didn't.
That's true. But he says, I'm
gonna. Well, actually, honestly, I'm better. Honestly, it's saving everybody a whole lot of trouble.
Yeah. But he says, I'm gonna let him go. It's important to get this crew to safety. I look like this, it kind of shows that, like, Zuko, again, like, actually cares about his crew, and actually has, like, some, it shows like he's, like, somewhat moral and everything like that. The fact that, like, he actually kind of, him going through that process with his crew earlier, actually, And I feel like what's good about this too is like now that the crew, because at this point the crew knows about Zuko's backstory. I think the crew totally would have understood like Zuko's decision to like actually want to go after the Avatar. But this actually gives the crew's perspective. Like, wow, he's actually thinking about our safety. Knowing he can get his honor back and everything like that to like catching the Avatar, and he had a good he had a good chance. And Iway then says like then we must head towards the eye of the storm. So that's the end of Zuko's plot. Pretty decent here, this is kind of the first time you get to kind of see Zuko and like kind of like the hero antagonist perspective here. And you actually like know he's like an antagonist, like his backstory now. Because again, in the Zhao plot, you kind of saw it, but again, I think he was like the de facto antagonist.
Yeah, it was. It's like he's kind of like the lesser evil as opposed to being like a good person,
Yeah. So, but yeah, why don't you talk about what Ain's doing during all of this?
Yeah. So, Aang and Katara. By the way, I think I forgot to mention it in the Zuko flashback. Because we mentioned Azula like smiling at Zuko getting burnt. Zhao was there and he was also smiling. And I'm like, bro, you are too happy to see this fucking 13-year-old kid get the, it's like in episode 3 when Zhao was like kept picking a fight with Zuko. I'm like, bro, you're a grown ass like 40-year-old man and you're picking a fight with a fucking like high schooler.
Right.
Like, bro, you're a loser.
Yeah, he's really the true loser out of all of this, I guess. So.
Yeah. Yeah, so
and this is a big thing for Zhao too. He picks a fight with a 12-year-old. He picks a fight with Sokka.
Yeah.
He's
fucking like anyone over the age of 18. He's like, nah, I ain't fighting you.
Well, have you noticed he never fights Iwo. He always says like, nope, and
Yeah, like, nah, you're too old for me.
Now, so I think like we just made this joke recently. I don't remember where it is, but what if they're like on the verge of turning 18? Like it's like the day before. Is he like, nope, I'm gonna fight you, and then
How they celebrate their birthday? Zhao shows up and he's like, all right, I get one last licking before you're out of. Again, Zhao is not allowed within a 20-mile radius of any school zones.
I remember we made it was the Yamcha joke. Where he says, "I'm not afraid of girls like my age," type of thing. That's where we made that joke.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, because he was like, I'm not a pedophile. Whereas Zhao, it's like, oh man, oof, I don't know, man. He should be on a list.
With Bertrand too,
Yeah, he can join that club. we're not doing another thing. Maybe another day. We'll do the fucking might be liking kids a little too much list.
We have to get Yamcha and Zhao together though. Zhao picks a fight with kids less than his age, and Yamcha isn't afraid of kids like that age. That'd be an interesting like group together.
Yeah. Like have a sit down with him, and he's like, "Okay, man, we gotta have a talk here." He posts to Chris Henson like, "Zhao, why don't you take a seat?"
Yep. But yeah, let's continue. Talk about Ain's plot, I guess.
Yep. So, Katara and Aang are on Sokka's back. Appa's back, and they're looking for Sokka. They're coming up on a wave, and Aang's able to like push through it, which is cool. And then they come across the boat. I like this funny line where they're trying to like gain control of the boat, and Sokka's like, "I'm too young to die," and the old guy's like, "I'm not, but I still don't want."
No one wants to die, so.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's not true, but this guy doesn't.
I think pretty soon, next Monday, we're gonna be wanting to die because we have to have you kiss this.
I was gonna say, Owen, bad thing to say in Avatar. In Legend of Korra, we have a guy literally kill himself like on screen.
Oh wow!
And I was like, Nickelodeon, Actually, we have a few people kill themselves in Legend of Korra, so actually, we'll get to that.
Yeah.
Aang shows up and he gets down onto the boat, and obviously it's a storm and it's like too dangerous to like land Appa, so they like wrap Sokka and the old guy with like rope, and like Aang, air jumps back on Appa, and he like takes Sokka and the old guy with him, and they land on Appa's back, and they're like, "Oh, cool, we lived." And then bad timing because a giant tidal wave comes and crashes down. They're sinking into the ocean. And Aang is like losing consciousness, but he like opens his eyes and sees, Katara, Sokka, and the shitty old man, sinking. He's like, my best friends and this guy. I have to save you guys. And him, I guess.
More specifically him, actually. Yeah, he's like, fuck all these other guys. This guy I want to save.
Typically. Well, I would love it if like Aang saves everybody, but like boots the old guy out. Like he's making fear, and the old guy just gets like sucked out.
And again, it's the Avatar slate, so all the avatars are like, fuck you for trashing.
Like, I would love if all the other past avatars are having a debate about it. Like, okay, so like we're saving Katara and Sokka. Do we save the old guy? And then like Yoshi and Roku are like, like nah, we can leave him out, right?
And they get outvoted.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. It's like a very close one. It's like neck and neck. Like one avatar is like, yeah, we'll save the old guy. And they're like, fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, Aang activates the avatar state, and once again creates an air sphere. Doesn't freeze it this time, because again, this would be a very different show if we get another 100-year time skip. But it seems like Aang's able to control it better, basically, and he's able to create an air sphere, and they're able to like fly it up to the surface. And at this point, the avatar state like deactivates, I guess. They're a little weird with the avatar state. Sometimes Aang kind of just like is able to control it, kind of, and sometimes he can't.
Yeah.
This one, it seems like he has fairly good control over it.
Yeah, this one was weird.
Yeah, because basically, like, they show up to the surface, and Aang is like out of the avatar state, like they're flying now, and they fly past Zuko's ship, and as they're flying up from the waters, you get a moment between Aang and Zuko where they the camera zooms in on both, and you get a moment where they like stare at each other for like a split second, and it doesn't seem like hostile. They're not like, oh fuck you, like they kind of just like are staring, like they kind of have like a connection, kind of.
Yeah, which I like, because you saw that the past was a lot more like than you think. So,
which I like.
Yeah, and kind of poetic that it seems like kind of after they've kind of gotten over their past a little bit, and then kind of ready to move on to the next thing, and they both kind of learned something. Like the storm like stopped.
Yeah. Aang got that off his chest, and like Zuko learned to like prioritize the crew, and and like he right before this he like says to Iroh that he's sorry, and Iroh puts his hand on his shoulder and he's like, apology accepted, like no worries.
Yeah.
Which you're going to talk about.
But yeah, so Zuko says, Zuko's plot line wraps up, he apologizes to Iroh, and Iroh accepts his apology. But I do like this, Zuko, like, even though, because you'll probably talk about with the AIM plot, even though we found out Zuko's backstory, it didn't really feel like his plot for the whole series, and, like, what he's been dealing with, like, really got settled. Like, it still feels like there's a lot, like, to it, and everything like that,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, like you said, this is kind of, like, the beginning of his, like, redemption. But, like, we're obviously not there yet.
Yeah. And, kind of, it's kind of a lesson that Aang learns at the end of the episode that Zuko hasn't learned that, where, like, he's not going to dwell on the past. Like, Zuko's been dwelling on the past, and that's why he's, like, so incensed and trying to capture the Avatar and everything like that. And, I like this. You can kind of see, like, this is, like, the first time, Zuko's actually, like, kind of, showing that he cares about Iroh, personally, like, present day and everything like that. Well, I was known about it and everything like that. So I do like that. And, you could, I do like this. It's like a baby step for Zuko, but there's still a lot of steps, like, to it and everything like that. Like, yeah, we did a decent thing, but there's still a lot of work that needs to be done, and there's still a lot of damage there. And finding out this past, you get a lot of sense of Zuko's past, but it didn't make it better for Zuko, where, as you're going to talk about, it made things better for Aang. So I do kind of like that, where, like, where the contrast is, like, you find out the past, but Zuko's past doesn't feel resolved, whereas Aang's, for the most part, kind of gets sort of resolved this episode. So I do like that.
Yeah.
Kind of it for the Zuko plot. I thought the Zuko's plot was awesome, though, very strong.
Yeah. I agree. I actually think this was a better wrap-up than Aang's. Because like you said, it's kind of left unfinished, whereas Aang's wraps up more neatly. And I think having that unfinished feeling, makes you excited for the future episodes with Zuko.
Right.
And I also, because I think we've complained about episode placement in other shows, like with Ben 10, obviously like the Kevin 11. It kind of sucks that the next episode doesn't like follow up on it. I like that this episode ends, Aang and Zuko have that like moment where they kind of have a connection. They don't even really realize it. They just like stare at each other.
Yeah.
And the next, obviously, a big moment between Aang and Zuko. So I like that. Like that follows this episode pretty much immediately. Yeah. So Aang returns to that cave. The old man and the old woman reunite. And she's basically saying, like, to the old man, like, you owe this kid an apology. And he, like, doesn't want to apologize. He's like, oh, can I give him, like, a free fish? And Aang's like, I don't actually eat meat. I'm a vegetarian. And he's like, fish ain't meat. There you go. That was this guy's character. That was his character. He has fish. No, he actually does have a character because he apologizes to Aang. He's like, hey, you know what? I gave you shit for not being around for 100 years. But if you weren't here today, I wouldn't be standing here either, so I can't be too upset at you. And Sokka also comes up to him and he's like, hey, can I get my payment still? And the guy just like gives him a fish.
Yeah.
So poor Sokka did all this bullshit. Well, Sokka wasn't even around for this whole Aang thing,
Yeah, exactly. So
presumably Aang and Katara tell him later is, like, why wouldn't they?
Yeah, I feel like they would have.
Yeah. But yeah, Aang and Katara kind of finished their conversation fairly early, where Aang is like, Katara, you're right. I guess I should stop worrying so much about like guessing what would have happened if I stuck around and didn't run away. Like, I'm here now. I'm gonna try and do the best I can in the present day. And Katara's like, hey, you know what? I don't think you're gonna have those nightmares anymore. Which I do like this. Like, Aang isn't fully over it. Like being the last Airbender, losing all the people he loved. I don't think it's ever something that fully goes away,
Right. Yeah.
But like he said, I think just constantly guessing like what would have happened, like focusing on the what ifs, isn't going to do him any good. So him focusing more on the present, I think is a good way to resolve that.
I think too, he's not like thinking like, not just the what is, but he's not feeling guilty about like what he did to like cause them to die or anything like that. Like he's kind of not really saying like it's my fault anymore and all that type of stuff.
Yeah, because in future episodes he brings up feeling guilty about like running away, and he's obviously sad that all the Airbenders died. But like you see, he's not like solely blaming himself for running away. Like he's not thinking like, if I didn't run away, I could save everybody. Because I think he acknowledges like what Katara said, that he probably would have been killed too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a good way to resolve that. And to kind of follow up on that, Sokka points out that, hey, it stopped raining. The sun is shining down. And they all kind of step outside to, enjoy the new day. Obviously symbolizing that, like, it's gotten brighter now. The storm has passed. And they got a bright future to look forward to. And then, Appa shakes off all the rain, and everybody's grossed out by it. And then the episode ends.
Yeah. But yeah, that's the end of the storm episode. I don't even think there's a debate. S-Rank, right? This is a...
Oh, 100%. Definitely arguably the best episode of Book One. It's definitely up there, and definitely one of the best of the whole show.
Yeah. Really, we find out Aang and Zuko's motivations. It changes Zuko's character completely. We find out there's a connection between them. The settings are very nice. Just an amazing episode all around. This episode, like we said, has long-lasting impacts. You find it starts kind of Zuko's redemption arc. It kind of makes you feel you kind of get why Aang feels the way he feels. Like years later, it's the first time you've got to see someone have like a negative feeling towards the Avatar. And yeah, just an amazing episode all around. And I feel like anything else you want to say about it?
Definitely one of my favorite episodes. Like I said, easier S rank. And yeah, like you said, I think this was a really series-defining show. Like, you getting way more context on our, two most important characters, I'd say. and I'm glad the present didn't like overshadow it, but like the present also did resolve a little bit for Aang and Zuko. So like I'm glad it's still there. Like I'm glad it wasn't just purely flashback.
Right.
So all just great episode overall. I definitely loved it.
I think one of the first episodes you didn't see like any fight in like Aang fight someone. Like it was just like it was all character stuff for the most part. Like there's that.
Yeah. We did a big action thing this episode. You know, we got the storm thing, but that wasn't really action. You know, and I think that definitely fits it. And you know, like I said, I love the placement. You know, like we got a good half the season, you know, building up to this. We get hints here and there of Aang and Zuko's past, and then when we finally get it, it lives up to the hype. And obviously, you know, it changes their characters going forward now, knowing this about them. So yeah, and obviously, I think Iroh talking about the crew was great. You know, kind of showing how Iroh's thoughts of Zuko, and you know, Katara having that moment with Aang makes the most sense because Katara's kind of like, you know, like Aang's emotional anchor. You know, it makes sense why Aang would open up to her.
Yeah.
I guess the only downside is that like we don't really get much of Zuko's crew before or after this.
Right. Yeah, it would have been nice.
One thing in the North Pole where Zhao takes Zuko's crew, and Zuko's like, well, good riddance, those traitors.
Yeah.
That's kind of it. You know, I really like it's. Well, you know, for this episode, I like the lieutenant. I think he's a good character. So I wish we got more of them.
I think we said we're gonna do a rewrite. It'd be nice. This could be the guy. I remember. A lot of preview for the next, if we ever do it, when we rewrite the North Pole thing, we can make this guy be the guy that finds out like about Zuko being in disguise, like the lieutenant and everything.
Maybe like out a little bit, yeah.
But yeah, that's pretty much it, you know. And you know, like we said, we got to cut into because recorded tomorrow. The next video is going to be reviewing the Blue Spirit, which you know was going to be nice. So.
Yeah,
you know, I want to
follow up to it. Starts off with Aang, with Sokka and Katara being sick, presumably from being in the storm, and obviously it's a big Aang and Zuko episode, just like this one is.
Yep. So, I will say a funny story, by the way. When I was writing the notes, I usually write down who talked about what. For like one of the things, I almost wrote down Zuko instead of my name, so that's funny. So,
yeah, you're really channeling the character. And I will say we've been doing pretty good on making our videos shorter lately. This is definitely a longer one, but like it's definitely fitting. Like if we were going to make a long, definitely one where I'm okay with.
But yeah, other things we're gonna be doing. For my birthday video, like we said, we're gonna want to die next Monday because we're doing Kiss Sis. It's the end of an era, though. It's the end of like season 1 of Kiss Sis, so it's gonna be it's a big video.
The fact that we specify season 1 at all is like goddamn.
Yeah.
Why?
And then at some point in Phineas and Ferb guessing game, in 2 weeks we're reviewing Evil Dead. Then in 3 weeks we're gonna review Star Wars: Return of the Jedi, and then by April, May, definitely April, we're going to be going full on back to Avatar, Danny and Ben. You know, really putting the focus on the channel on getting to season 2 of those shows. We're gonna wrap up season 1, and then we're just gonna immediately follow it up by reviewing season 2. So definitely a lot to look forward to for this channel. Anything you want to plug or promote, or nah?
Nah.
So, yeah, and then the wrestling channel, you know, check out that stuff. Maybe AJ and I will do something wrestling related on that channel pretty soon. Because, you know, we did the guessing game. We have to follow that up. So, you know. But that's pretty much it, guys. And we will talk to you guys later.
Bye.